any way, which is a security stance. So you don't have people trying to find your IP address, see where your local internet service provider is, and try to whittle it down into a castle somewhere, right? Which at that time it wasn't. But now it's probably presumed to be a very understanding that that's the reason why it would be an undisclosed location somewhere where he's not willing to let anybody know. So I don't, and Alex too, like Alex is a big Hexagon. Previous to day one, I've seen him in the chats before Hex was even launched to know about those things. And the way that he plays his game is long term. So I would say that he is calculably one of the more intelligent people to understand how things worked. While the rest of the community was just kind of going based off of whatever they heard from anybody else as to the reasons why A or B would have been a good idea or not. He was able to investigate and actually develop some sort of thought processes based off of what he saw because of the intelligence that he had, and which is still him today, right? He's a younger kid too. I don't see, he doesn't have any reason to sell Hex either, right? Or have to really fuck around with selling Hedron or even Icosa, because if I know a gentleman like himself, then you'd be able to provide liquidity and fees in a couple of different assets that have millions of dollars of transaction fees per day. If you have enough assets to be able to split across the pools, you just have less work. You can just split your assets across all the pools. So any of the pools that collect fees, just like what I would assume Richard Hart would do as well, to make sure that the ecosystem was healthy, that those two gentlemen have more than enough assets to be able to spread them across certain pairs. Maybe Richard Hart has more ETH, right, than maybe Alex had to start with. But through doing that, he doesn't have to participate in hurting anybody at all. Not at all, because he can actually provide health in the ecosystem through providing liquidity and just earn the fees in thousands of dollars a day. And he has his own businesses that he runs on like a normal person would do, right?
Richard runs businesses?
No, Alex does.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Alex does. And Richard does. Richard has ran businesses. I don't think that he
has he disclosed them?
Yeah, like a porn industry that he was a part of. He was part of an audio visual company.
Of course.
There were some financial companies that I'm sure that he was involved in, but I don't know how intimate he is in doing a lot of those things anymore. Because simply you just really don't.
You never get out of the porn business.
Well, he doesn't. I don't know. Like, I haven't looked into that. When it comes to those types of things, maybe, who knows? It is kind of
no one.
It is kind of a nefarious business, and I don't really see him. Like, I think that he saw an opportunity back in the day, back when you had to go to an actual adult emporium to be able to go get a dildo, right? He was already on the internet, creating availabilities for advertisers to get in people's faces. Richard Hart was
one of the, to say creating porn.
He was one of the premier people. Well, where else do you see the majority of a lot of advertisements so that you can get your free fucking porn for your disheveled brain, right?
Those ads don't work very well.
Well, it doesn't have to, because they get paid per view. It gets paid per view. So it doesn't even have to. So he developed the availability for people to have. That's why they called him the Spam King. I don't know if a lot of people knew that, but the reasons why pop-up ads started to become a thing where your antivirus, anti-pop-up
bags now,
stuff like that actually became a thing was because of him creating those types of things, which is great for advertisers. I mean, not just for porn, but for anything being sold over the internet, which, I mean, that was very, very forward thinking mentality, because look at the internet today. You can literally buy anything over the internet: cars, houses, deeds, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, trust accounts, fucking anything. And where are all these ads at? Everywhere. Every fucking where. You think that he doesn't generalize some sort of royalty from any of those types of things? I'm pretty sure he does.
I just want to chime in and just go back to JS real quick. Just because he was talking about owning some Matic, and you can do whatever you want, man. Like
Sure.
I'm not here to judge, but like here's one thing to keep in mind. There was a time where your average person did not invest in stocks. Do you know why? Because we had good banking services like CDs and stuff that were guaranteed yield that was like through the government, through inflation, and people would earn more interest than inflation. So why would you ever do the risky thing with stocks where you could just all of a sudden, like, or when you could be in a CD earning 5, 10% a year with 2% inflation?
Makes
Remember,
sense.
they took away those CDs with that high inflation. That's no longer here. So now people are forced to go and gamble in crypto and in stocks and everything. But like the only reason the stock market kept going up was because they took away those good interest rates for people to save money for the future. And now Hex is here. And this is why a lot of the Hexicans take such a high stance of being Hex maximalists. You know, look at how Hex maximalists these guys are. They're not even sure they like Hedron and Icosa. All right. Like that's how maximalist they are. And that may come off as toxic to you, or maybe you're like, oh, dude, that can't be right. But it's like, no, it's because they know. It's because they know there's nothing that's probably going to outperform staking Hex or staking like Icosa or Hedron, and you don't have to worry about someone stealing your money. Like guaranteed yield is a very, very powerful thing, and a lot of the OG Hexicans, they live that dream. Remember, Bitcoin minted 50 Bitcoin every 10 minutes for fucking years. Now it's 6.25 Bitcoin every 10 minutes, 6.25 Bitcoin. Multiply that by 16,000, multiply that by 6 to get an hour, then multiply that by 24. That's how much sell pressure every day Bitcoin can sustain. Well, now think about that with Hex. If we can match that, like that means that like you're going to have a factory that just produces you money. It literally just appreciates in value, and then you get more tokens to sell to somebody else who wants to earn that yield. And like that's why so many Hexicans are just so pure Hex, and why like a lot of Hexicans didn't like me at first, and like, but then I was like, I was wrong. I see why we don't talk about other shit coins, because they're trying to steal your Hex.
It also makes sense to like see both sides of the coin when it comes to Hex too, right, Mike? Like those that are stakers are the ones that are actually receiving the inflation, and then we all know that there's certain people in the community, maybe even a large amount of the community, that doesn't stake. They buy liquid and they hold liquid. That would be like the Bitcoin miners are mining, receiving the inflation, and the rest of everybody else who doesn't mine just buying Bitcoin. And it will end up being the same type of thing throughout the years when inflation dies down. And some people just don't get it. Some people just say that Hex is complicated, and you just tell them to stake. But even today, I was having to like reiterate to somebody who had nuked their own stake because they just didn't read. Like people don't even want to read. So this is not just a matter of being complicated. It's a matter of people just being simply lazy. And you can't fix laziness. You can't fix that shit. We can do everything we can to try to put everybody in the right mentality and get them in the right position to be able to do all the good, right things for themselves. And they'll still take the gun and pull the trigger before pulling it out of the holster. They'll shoot themselves in the foot.
That's funny. So true. So true.
Yeah. And we watch it happen every fucking day, and we're just kind of like, the thing even gives you a warning. It tells you, well, I didn't see it. No, motherfucker, you just didn't read it. You chose not to read it. And thank you for your service. Because now you just gave half of it to the OA and the rest of it to us. The stakers, I mean, not the liquid holders don't get jack shit. They get nothing besides appreciated value, which in a bear market is the dumbest fucking thing you could do. You should stake, even during the bear market, to at least receive some sort of inflation.
Well, that's where a lot of the big stakes end up breaking, and that's where the majority of your rewards are. And if you look, the payout per T-share has gone up 15% since the bear market happened. So 15% more yield every single day adds up.
Well, you know why that happens? You know why that mentality creeps up? Is because of these exchanges, putting that fear in people that they need to cut and run, cut their losses and run. But Hex is not. Hex, Hedron, Icosa, a lot of the newer assets that don't have anything to do with exchanges, don't have any interest in giving, like minting up free coins to give to an exchange, except for Zen. Zen is
A blessing.
I don't even want to get into the whole Zen thing because I am well aware of who actually developed it, and those people rug pulled their own people. So I don't really want to get into that. And on top of it, like Jack knows about it too. So that's kind of fucked, in my opinion. An interest from those things. And I don't want to talk bad about it. I don't want to talk about it really with those things at all. Because they did sell to exchanges. They did put their own community and their people in a place to get harmed. And they don't teach. He wanted it to be educational, but he isn't teaching people actual things to keep them away from harm. He actually invited the harm into the community and allows for these things to happen. So he has statistical analysis to be able to put out there to try to promote his fuckery. Which, I mean, some of it may not be bullshit for those people that are educated on how to be able to handle some of the things, which he can utilize that on the other adverse of the harm that he brought into his community. And I also think that, which I don't think he gives a shit, because like I said, he's well aware of it. So I don't think he gives a shit. A lot of that community are Hexicans. That's where I get a little offended, right? I'm in other chats with him to know that he knows about it. And we tell him very clearly, very bluntly how we feel about the things that he's doing. And he just laughs about it. Quite literally laughs about it. So fuck that whole deal, right? I won't get too far into that. But when it comes to Hex, we don't have those things. We don't invite that shit into our communities. But yet we still have people who have been involved in those types of things that learn the hard way because they made mistakes, which that's probably one of the better educators is when you fuck up, you learn from it, hopefully, unless you're slow on the upkeep and you just think that it was that one exchange that fucked you. When really, in reality, it's all of those exchanges who have the intention to give themselves the power to be able to do these things, to protect themselves, not you. They don't care about you. They only care that they get the how much APY, how much APR, how much of what are the fancy things that they want to put the shiny object in front of you. So you're literally picking up pennies in front of the freight train they're about to ram right up your ass. And they knew these things. They know that these cycles are happening. They know that the bear market's coming. They know they over collateralize themselves. They know that they over leverage their positions with your assets. They knew that they did it. Even the whole FTX thing is going to take 3 or 5 years before you actually find out exactly what happened, even though a lot of people who are doing research see exactly what happened. I mean,
pretty much everyone in crypto is getting played unless you're a Hexican and you're staking.
Mm-hmm.
True. This is our way of protecting ourselves, and this is why, like, I literally, like, I'm not trolling. Hex, Hedron, Icosa, Watsa, real estate. That is literally all I own. Nothing else, because nothing else is worth my time. And if there was, I would be interested, and I'd probably have some money in it. And like you gotta be really careful. Like in crypto, it's just like I've just learned, man. Everyone's trying to steal your good shit, whether your good shit's Hedron, whether your good shit's Hacks or Ethereum or Bitcoin. They're trying to steal your shit and give you their worthless ERC20 token. That's where I stand. I might be wrong, and maybe it outperforms Hex a little bit, maybe. Probably not. Hex is a function of money, and it's hard to outbeat the returns that Hex can give you with just just in terms of staking. You can make 40% APY plus all the Hedron you mint. That's hard to compete with, and that's why every single dollar that I make out of my business, it goes into this ecosystem.
Yeah, I think that what we're going through and talking about these things, which is difficult enough to try to get people to understand what they've gotten themselves into, is just the top layer. Imagine a book that has 5,000 pages in it, and what we're trying to do is trying to get through people through opening the book, the cover page, and looking at just the cover page, and that's it. And when you actually get into the 2,500th page of it, which definitely too long didn't read at that point, then you're going to get into things that you would probably consider as conspiracy when it comes to the top 1% controlling everything and how it all actually works, how the game is played and what the rules are, and how to be able to implement yourself as a private citizen that actually goes and one, privatizes their legal name trust, records necessary UCC filings, and open up their Treasury direct accounts and pulls jurisdiction off of the Secretary of Treasury, for being a receiver administrator of those accounts. And that's why I said you'd have to get down to page 2,500 to understand what the fuck I just told you right there. And these are all legal things that you can do as an individual to be able to claim your, I don't like this word, but I'm going to use it, sovereignty. Right? Sovereignty is a word that has been utilized through media to be able to perpetrate that you're an enemy of the state. So it's not a good word to use. It's almost like having the flat earth type of, in my head, it's right up there with having the flat earth conversation with people. Right? It's meant to confuse you. A lot of this stuff is meant to make it seem like it's too difficult to understand. And yes, when you record the necessary UCC filings, there's over 33 pages of that you need to be able to file to be able to send into the Secretary of Treasury, to be able to have him or her actually hand you the passport that actually makes you a privatized citizen in the first place. Every single one of us that has a social security number has our entity utilized as a bill of exchange for them to be able to make interest rates off of every single one of us as a living human being. And also all of your assets, all the taxes that you pay, everything that you think that you own is all directed through them. And only through UCC filings are you available to actually claim these types of ownerships and do those types of things, which are the things that I'm currently working on and getting into, to be able to create an actual availability for an onboard, offboard type of thing that actually works for people. And I don't want to show you. You get into a murky area where if you show somebody that they have a cookie jar, most people are going to stick their hands in there and take every fucking cookie out. And that's not exactly what you want to do, right? Showing people how to discharge their debts every month, so that way you have no debt at all, is not exactly what we want, what I would like to be able to do. I would just simply like to have things that actually fucking work, and to provide people with the opportunity to be able to get the UCC and the filings for the paperwork to actually have it correct. So that way, when you send it into the government, to be able to privatize your legal name in a trust and actually be the beneficiary and the trustee of your own trust, to actually have people understand what the hell they're doing. And it goes from there.
That's the big one.
All the way up.
That's the big one. People understanding, people don't realize that you can be both in the trust. You can be the beneficiary and the what was the other one you said? Sorry.
The trustee.
Yeah, the trustee and the beneficiary.
Then there's a grantor. There's a grantor also. There's three, but you can only be two of the three. You can never be all three. So I would prefer,
if it's a personal property trust, maybe you can. I don't know. I have to brush up on the things that I know, but you're speaking my language, and I'm very appreciative of it and really excited about as to what's gonna come of it in the future. So yeah, thanks.
Yeah, we got some people that definitely know their shit, and we're working on it. And people
And
who have
remember,
already done
everyone's trying to copy Hex. Since I've been in Hex, I have seen many, many copycats, and I wasn't here since day one, like maybe Alex was or Hexecutioner. And do you know why so many people are watching Hex and seeing how Hedron was made, and people are trying to copy Hedron? They're seeing Watts's and why they're trying to copy it, because it's so mind-bogglingly good that they feel like they have to copy it to try and ride that wave. And like a side chain for transactions on Ethereum, I guess, is cool if like they don't rug pull, but that doesn't show real value to the token. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it makes you look out for that, because like, dude, there's a reason why all these like Hex clones are popping up, because they're trying to simulate the success of Hex, which, like Richard says, it's going to be very hard, because the Hex community. I've been in crypto a long time, man, and like, dude, this community, we're nuts. Like, I talked my buddy into buying some Hex today. He's 17 years old, and I was like, I think you should stake it for 15 years, bro. You'll be my age when you be able to claim. And he was like, he thought about it, and he goes, you know what? That sounds awesome. So you'll say I'll be a real Hexican if I make a Quattro Cinco? And I said, yes. And I'm about to be sending his Hex soon. And it's not a lot, but it's like, just understand that effect. This guy's getting into Hex for the first time, and he's like, I'm locking this shit for 15 years, dude.
Yep.
You can't, like everything else, token appreciation, a little pump in whatever that token was, Matic, like it means nothing. It literally is just nothing. Because if Matic goes up 100x, dude, that means like Hex is going up 200x plus interest.
Yeah, ultimately, it's all about fundamentals, and Hex is the strongest on fundamentals. And, you know, it's the new store of value for crypto 2.0. It's better than Bitcoin. That's it. It's done.
Yep, I believe so as well, and that's why we're still using it as a tool, right? If you can get people to understand cryptocurrency, that's difficult as it is. But if you can get people to understand Hex, they don't need to go any further. They really don't have to go any further. And we're opening up doors that even we're getting private bankers to actually they understand how this shit works. And you show them Hex and they're going, oh, fuck. Like, okay, so we don't have to add any extra added risk for these types of things to be involved with these types of things. And you're like, fuck no. Absolutely not. You don't have to give up your keys. You have all the claimed ownership, which they love to know. Absolutely love to know. What about all this other scammy shit? Well, who's harmed? You can go listen to all, which they don't, or you can actually go dive into any types of agreements that you have, because you have all the contracts. You can go see all the contracts. Then you can go see that nobody's ever been harmed, ever. And they love it.
You know, just because price is down, I think we forget how special Hex really is. I remember seeing those green candles after like talking to Richard and him explain to me the true value proposition of Hex one-on-one. I feel so blessed, dude. Like the guy took time out of his day to save my dumb ass and explain to me the importance of not having admin keys. And like, bro, looking back, like the admin keys, man, be careful. Like as soon as somebody has the chance to steal all your money, and it's enough money, so many people are willing to pull that trigger. They really are. It's sad.
Yeah, and if you think that Richard hasn't done these things that I'm talking about, privatizing his own legal name and trust, record the necessary UCC filings to be able to hand over to the Secretary of Treasury, hand over his bonds to be able to get his passport, which allows for him to live in a completely different country as a generalized US citizen, he's broken himself away from it. You know, there's been YouTube videos where he talks about these things and then he ends up being like, it's just really complicated for you to understand. And he knows how far he can go before he starts to look like he's a zealot in some sort of way, because you can't explain these things to people in a certain respect, right? You can discharge your debts, but you can't spend the money. You go spend the money, the CIA, the FBI, and everyone else that controls the banks are going to be looking at you. You got to hand this shit directly to the Secretary of the fucking Treasury, guys. The people who run the banks in the first place, that sit at those international trading desks, are FBI and CIA agents that are involved in the banks. They are.
How do you not implicate yourself? How do you not draw too much attention to yourself, but still be a free man and know that you have this thing that's called a straw man account that literally is being born into slavery? And how do you not become a martyr yet rise from the dead?
You claim yourself to be a state citizen, which makes you an American national, which is all of the Americas, not just North America, not just the United States, right, of America. It's North America, South America, Central America, all of the Americas, right? And you pay your taxes, right? You don't have to pay federal taxes. You still have to pay your state taxes. But you don't come in like you're trying to fucking burn the world down. You come in to play the game, and you let them understand that you're not trying to be a terrorist. You're not trying to be a thorn in anybody's side, right? You're just coming in to be able to claim what is yours. Because right now they're making money off of the interest, which they can trade that bill of exchange for 9 months. Let's say you have a mortgage and you don't pay your mortgage. They'll continue to allow for that fuckery to happen for 9 months while they trade that back and forth for every month's worth of interest. And then they sell it to a new trustee where they can sell it for another 9 months off of your back. But you still owe the debt because you're a U.S. citizen. You're just being able to break yourself away from that, right? Because you being a U.S. citizen is what gives you your availability to have a social security number in the first place, which that social security number is the identifier to your fucking treasury. And off of that treasury allows for you, when you break away from that and you become a trustee and you also are the beneficiary of those things, then you can discharge those debts free will. You can even do, I don't want to give anybody legal advice, but you could do court through the mail, where let's say the SEC sent you a discovery query to try to get information from you. You can just write down, which I won't tell you what you need to write down. You can find this on your own if you go look up secured party creditor stuff. Certain specific details on that letter and send it back, and they will not fuck with you again, because they'll know that the relationship that you have between them and you provides you the availability to put a lien against anything they have. As a CIA agent, as a politician, as an anything, you can take their home, you could take their car, you could take their any fucking thing from them, because they're fucking with the wrong person. And they won't mess with you anymore. But you have to file all this paperwork correctly. You have to be dealing with people who understands how to do these things correctly, or you spend the 100 days or a year or however long going through all the ins and outs on how to be able to know what is the correct paperwork and what the right filings are. And yes, you better know how to spell, because if you misspell anything while doing this, they'll send it back to you and they'll say that it's not legitimate and cannot be enforced. It's just like being a lawyer. So yeah, after you have the availability of learning these things, realize that it's not any fucking conspiracy. It's not. The United States as an entity is a corporation. It's not the United States of America anymore. It's not. It's not the US of A. It's not. Everything is ran by corporations all the way up to the tippity top. And any country that has any dealings with the United States, France, Germany, Italy, Taiwan, Thailand, any of them, there's like 200 and some odd of them. They are all a part of the game, corporatized, just like it. And having the availability of breaking yourself away from those ties and claim the ownership of all of the assets that they claimed as theirs but never was, and you would be able to to get yourself in a way where you actually have ownership of your legal name and trust, then the doors open up and you will find out how the real world works. But like I said, we're working on these types of things. We want to be able to make these things a lot more simplified and easy for people to actually understand instead of talking like a bunch of lawyers, right? Or a bunch of financial bankers. And be able to provide this information to the normies, to normal people even. They can have a generalized understanding of how all these things actually work. Obviously, getting these types of things out as fast as possible would be the generalized best thing. But we want to make sure everything's right and do everything right and correctly. So it's important to do that.
I don't know, man. The more hours I spend just in this chat, talking with everybody, learning more, the more that Executioner with his, like, I don't even touch that layer. But like, it just shows the importance of the function of money, like Rich says.
Yep.
This is the end game, bro. Like, I remember telling my buddy when we were at like 50 cents, I thought we were going to $1. All right. So I'm not 100% right about everything, but I asked him, he was like, maybe you take that out and you go start a Roth IRA. And I was like, dude, I don't think you get it. I was like, I think Hex is the end game. Like this symbol that I changed my name to, I'm not sure if everybody knows. It basically just says like Hex is like, it's basically Hex is a black hole for financial energy. The only reason the stock market did so well over the last, a few, decades was because there was no good banking services left for people to earn yield past inflation. And once that product comes back, remember, this is now better than fucking regular CDs from the banks. Even back at the day where you could earn 10% interest on a CD, like this is better. We don't know how high the price of Hex can really go. They just keep printing this money out of thin air. But you can't print unlimited amounts of Hex out of thin air. Hex is the best thing ever because it takes Keynesian and Austrian economics and combines it into a brand new monetary system. Inflation is good to make the economy move, but it's bad for people who hold cash. But like if CDs were paying 10% yield above the inflation rate, or I'm sorry, but still being above inflation rate, inflation's not that big of a deal because some of that inflation is going to you. That system's no longer here, except for in Hex. Dude, like, couple $100 Hex, it may sound impossible while we're here at 2 cents. But like, I really truly believe, especially now with Hedron, Icosa, and all the Pulse Chain, Pulse X coming out, these types of things are possible.
Yeah, I think the lower it goes in this bear market, the higher it's going to go in the next bull market.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's where it all started with me too. That the whole rabbit hole of figuring out how things really work started with Hex, my introduction to Richard Hart, and just some of the nuances of how he would explain things and how he would talk about certain things but not talk about certain things led for me to stick my head down in that hole that he opened up and take a peek inside and start educating myself on what it is that he actually meant when he said some of the things that he would say about that you want to be a secured party. You want to have involvement. If anything, if you don't want to be a secured party creditor, you want to at least be involved with somebody that's secured, because in any other way, you're dealing with a non-secured party. He even just recently said that in one of his videos that he just came out with not too long ago, which was fucking astounding for me because I'm working on some stuff that happens to do with all of these things. And yes, I plan on clipping that shit so that we can use it. Because even Richard is saying exactly what we're planning on doing here.
Yeah, I guess I just came in the middle of the conversation, but he I remember he said something about the secured creditors are getting their money first, who is like from FTX, which is like not the average customer.
Nope. No, because you don't fuck with secured creditors. They're the ones that actually have the ownership of their treasury and availability to walk around as a real free man. Not somebody that claims to be a sovereign citizen to go into a courtroom and talk about how they can't get pulled over or they availability, the cops can't do this and that and the other. That man's just trying to do his job. That cop is going to pull you over. And if you come in there saying some willy-nilly shit like that in front of a judge, he's going to charge you he's going to charge you, your entity, your person, your whatever you claim yourself to be, with the same chargings that he was going to do any fucking way. Right? There's certain times when you know when to play your cards, and in a courtroom that has been manipulated since the beginning of time, in the very first place, I think it was in the 1930s, right after the Great Depression, when the Federal Reserve became a thing and everybody lost all the assets that they had under the claimed ownership of them. Which, if you don't understand how that shit works, you should definitely look it up, because that's exactly what happened. Everybody lost everything, and they took your social security numbers and your availability to any assets that you could ever own, and they claimed ownership of those, and you have to pay for it as a slave.
Yeah, my dad's company had a secured creditor for a little bit, and they ended up, like, when they would sell their oil, the first $100,000 that they sold would go to the secured creditor before any employees got paid, any taxes, or any, like before anybody got paid, the secured creditor got paid.
Yeah, because it has to come out previous to taxes, because the secured creditor isn't paying taxes. They're not obliged to. They don't have to. They don't fall under the
That
same
makes sense.
guidelines as normal citizens do, which normal citizens, or the only U.S. citizens that have a social security numbers, are the only ones that can have the position to become a secured party creditor in the first place. You just have to have the legal means and the availability and the smarts in your head to know exactly what paperwork you need to be able to file. If you don't know what a UCC is, you should go look it up. A UCC1 and a UCC3. These are all there available for you to be able to see. Actually, a lot more information used to be available to be able to see, but too many people were sticking their hands in the cookie jar and they were spending money instead of discharging debt. That's what all the billionaires do. They want to make it seem like they're opening up all these different types of trust accounts, and I know we get into the talk about all these different types of trusts that you can open up and all these things, but you're still not a secure party creditor, and you don't claim ownership of your actual trust in treasury of your legal name. They're not, but the billionaires do. And they're not going to tell you that shit. If the billionaires, the ones with the biggest influence, were actually out there telling you guys how to do this stuff, then they'd have no slaves left. Because everybody would do it.
I actually saw a post where somebody was talking about all of this and how, like, birth certificates, social security numbers, and all of this, it was like basically invented to basically make a working slave class, because if you don't have some of those things, then you can't work. So, like, you're forced to work for them.
Yes, absolutely. That's why you pay taxes. That's why you pay your mortgage. That's why you pay your loans back. That's why you pay interest rates on top of your credit cards. That's why you pay all these things, because you're just a slave. And you never had ownership of those things in the very first place anyway. And the only ones that have the highest regard in every essence of, no matter how you set your filings as any type of citizen, would be the Vatican, which is a small town of less than 600 people. Which I think is about when Richard Hart talks about creating his own country, I'm thinking that he is he's allowing for everyone else in the low level thinking to think whatever they want, but in the high level thinking, that's what he's actually going at. That's what he's looking forward to. Everyone's like, don't you need an army? Wouldn't you need these things? Wouldn't you need that? Wouldn't you need to protect yourself? Nope. Absolutely not. Not if you had a whole army of secured party creditors that couldn't be touched by in any legal means at all, because there would be no legal means. Nobody got harmed. Nobody. You know, the only people that would have an availability of not having to go through all this paperwork and do the UCC filings and all the rest of the stuff and dealing with the Secretary of Treasury is any child who's below the age of 7. Because after 7 years of your birth, you're deemed dead at sea.
Wait, what? I'm so lost. Wait, what?
Mm-hmm.
Wait.
Yeah. You are deemed dead unless you were able to claim you are who you are by the age of 7. It takes 7 years to be able to do it. So by the time that you're already a 7-year-old, it's already too late for you, unless you have the availability of having the knowledge to be able to know where the loopholes are for you to be able to get yourself in this position to be a secured party.
So
country
what happened
that
when I was
wants
7
hex.
years old?
Say that again.
When I was 7-year-old, did I sign something, or is that just like a pre?
No, when you were born, and they gave you your social security number, and your parents signed your birth certificate, you were already under contract.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And the only way you could have broken that contract is if you would have known about it previous to the age of 8 years old, 7 years old, and put yourself in the position to do that. And how many 7-year-olds do you think that would even have a fucking any of these things?
Yeah, you have to be like 40 or something just to even understand the gravity of that.
Yeah, for sure. People in the UK know about it because it's in their government documents that this is what happened in the fires of London, where the Queen supposedly pushed everyone out to sea and then deemed everyone dead, lost at sea, and then took over everybody's assets.
I'm gonna go down this rabbit hole.
Oh, dude. Yeah, this there may be some conspiracy type of theories, but this is all legit. Even the Department of Justice explains it to you.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a bunch of Googling after this. Like that sounds really interesting.
Yeah, dude.
Remember, this is a new monetary system, guys. There are going to be governments that look at the hex, Icosa, Hedron monetary system, and they are going to want they're going to want their own version of hex for their own monetary system. I truly believe that because it's so synonymous with our current system, but it's better. And it runs all by itself.
I don't think very many Mexicans agree with me, but because I've been lambasted for saying this before, but it's really like hex is not it's like a better version of the treasury bill.
Yes.
Yes. So yeah,
now we have a bond market with HSI auctions. Like we have everything that the current system has, but in a better form. Like this is a better monetary system, and like Richard being able to get a country, these types of things, dude, like they can happen. Like, look, there are some countries that are picking Bitcoin as their currency, and we all understand that Bitcoin blows compared to Hex because it only has the gold currency. It doesn't have any banking services with it, and any of the banking services that are made are always centralized bullshit, and they fail and go to zero.
I think that it's kind of like that's what happened with the treasury bill. After 1913, everyone copied what the Federal Reserve did with their, but I mean, even before that, I guess Hex is a better version of the treasury bill before 1913, but you can see that pretty much all these countries, they'll have some sort of treasury bill that works almost exactly the same way as everyone else's. They're all fractionally reserved now, though. So
let me read something to you, which is really fucking interesting, shocking. It says, at birth, a birth certificate application is signed by your parents, which is used by corporate government to commence a trust in your name. This trust is used as collateral, and a collateral account is created and funded in your name. You are the beneficiary of this trust, but no one tells you that it exists. If you do not complete a will by the age of 7, corporate government declares you deceased under admiralty law of all things. You are officially considered by the system to be lost at sea seriously. Corporate government then assumes financial control of your estate, and they, aware that most of us do in fact live beyond the age of 7, continue to treat us as living slaves. The funds generated by monetizing your life, using you as collateral, are loaned to you when you apply for bank finance, mortgages, etc. You are then forced to work to repay those funds plus interest back to the system. Legally, you have no rights because you are considered dead by the age of 7. You lose. This would also suggest that the constitutional rights that we all like so much are not your rights to have.
So what how much money is in that account that I would have gotten?
I think it
Or,
depends
like,
on how you've actually been available to live, but I think it's somewhere around $300 million.
whoa. So
That's
what
why
if I have a kid?
That's why we can't give you the cookie jar.
What if I had a kid and then I had him claim it for like himself?
Previous to the age of 7, he'd have to write up his own will
No, shit.
to prove that he is who he is.
I
Otherwise,
see a
Yeah,
world
you
where
can't do
every
that, so.
country has a layer 1, and it's something like pulse chain. And like every government has their forked version of hex. Because remember, Richard did talk about how you can't just copy hex because there's legal ramifications against it. It's kind of like writing a book, was the way that he phrased it. Like you can't just recopy someone's book. So there were attempts to copy and they changed around some numbers. But like it's the hex formula that's so special. And like we could see, like in a reality, I do see a world where there are other forked versions of hex which we get copies of, and other countries use their version of hex with their version of an OA, or their country's OA, and they use that to run this monetary system. Who cares that the government's making a CBDC? Guess what they're going to do? They're going to hyperinflate it into the ground until it breaks. Because they can't control themselves.
So it all started with the introduction of the Reserve banking system.
Mhm.
The Federal Reserve Act was implemented in the United States in 1913. Congressman Charles Lindbergh even stated, from now on, depressions will be scientifically created. And they are. In 1929, the powers that be deliberately crashed the stock market by creating fluctuations in the stock market by driving emotion. Prior to 1929 crash, excitement was created in the market, which created a period of inflation. Today, corporate governments continue to masquerade as real government. The reserve bank system continues to drive periods of market boom and market bust by strategically tightening and relaxing the supply of money and credit. The current global financial crisis is a perfect example of this exactly happening and how they do it. All while establishing media plays as its part to influence the emotion of the stock markets and facilitating political untruths at the same time, which a lot of us talk about what all this crazy shit that's coming out, how brazen they are. They're just outright saying these types of things that we need to make a choice. We need to choose what side we're on. So that way we know while civil liberties are being taken away from us, that we need to be able to figure out which side we're going to be on. Isn't that scary? Some scary shit. So there is some other types of trusts that are out there right now that have been able to put themselves in a position to be able to put the governments or the corporations that masquerade as governments in a position to be able to it's pretty much like suing those corporations, in which would derive themselves as a country's the guise that they are a country, but yet ruled by these corporations. So they sue these corporations and say, if you're able to provide some sort of recourse to this by coming to court in the first place and providing factual data that would suggest that we are in the wrong by suing you for these things, then please do. But you know what happened when those court dates came up? They didn't show because they had nothing. They had no way of being able to prove that they weren't doing the things that they were being accused of doing, which is all this paperwork, which I've been sifting through like crazy and reading all these things that have happened since the early 1920s or 1919 until today even. And a lot of it was set up for them to have the availability previous to 1919 when the Federal Reserve became a thing in the very first place. That's why they had to go collect themselves together with a bunch of bankers to be able to derive this type of conclusion that they can enslave everybody in the first place this way. And since it happened in 1920 and it was 103 years ago now, it's got lost in the mix. Right. And at any point in time that you have anybody trying to help other people, genuinely help other people to get into these types of positions, they get put out by the media. They get put out by the media as enemies of the state or in some sort of way, a heretic in some sort of way. But in all reality, this shit is true. And this is how it works. And like I said, you can even look at the Department of Justice under secured party creditors and see exactly how they differentiate the reasonings as to why they do the things that they do. I do have other paperwork too. But I definitely I love going to the horse's mouth and seeing their own acknowledgement of it and what they've put themselves in, this situation.
Yeah,
that
where is that? That's on. They have like they say this on like the Federal Reserve website or something.
The Department of Justice.
Oh, okay. Okay. They say
You'd have to look
Department of Justice.
Yeah, under Title 68, the government as a secured creditor.
The government is a secured creditor, or as
No,
that's the title, or
the government claims themselves as the secured creditor because you, previous to being 7 years old, was already mentioned to be dead. So they took ownership of all of the assets that were owed to you. So therefore, they are the secured creditor of you as a slave, as an individual, as a flesh and blood human being.
So what happens if you didn't sign your birth certificate? Like nobody signed it.
Then you would never be issued a social security number.
So that wasn't the contract that was like signing your rights away.
Your parents signing it would have been the acknowledgement of the beginning of the contract in the first place, where they were able to take that and immediately, as soon as they sign that, that is their bill of exchange, right? A bill of exchange could be a check that you wrote, but in this case, or the deed that you have, or the title for your car, right? Like, I can go sell my car right now with the title that I have as a bill of exchange, right? So they do the same thing with your birth certificate as well, right? So
yeah, because when you sign a title, basically you're registering. You're not actually owning the title. You have the certificate of title, and actually the state that you registered your vehicle in is the one who owns your car, and you've literally given away your car to the state, just like parents literally give their children away to an entity. Yeah, it's gnarly. This is like
worth it? Or?
Is it worth it? Is that your question? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I guess that's right.
Yes, I would say.
Was it a good sale?
It's not worth it. No, fuck no, it's not worth giving up your availability to ever having ownership of anything under the guise that you do under these freedoms of a constitution that you don't even have the rights to. Yes, you can own a gun. Yes, they can tell you that you have the freedom of speech and the freedom to gather and the freedom of movement and all these things, but what actually suggests that you really fucking do?
That's absolutely true. 100%, this all comes back to the fact that we only suffer because of a lack of knowledge. Like, this is it. This is a big part of it. Once you realize this stuff, then it's like we don't have to suffer as much. There's a lot of suffering that people don't even realize is self-inflicted because of lack of knowledge.
Absolutely. And I mean, to go out and to like gather a bunch of people in a basement and teach them about this type of stuff, not everybody is going to have the same type of mindset, like what I had suggested before, that you do it under peace and love, right? You do it knowing that, yes, they're trying to fuck you over, but you're not going to come there to try to slit their throat. You're just trying to play the game. You understand the rules. You understand there's a game to be played, and you put yourself in the position to be one of the people that does it. You're not there to ruin the party. You're just there to play the game the way it actually works, not the way they tell you that it works, because you already
Yeah,
passed
play
it.
it. Yeah, play it the way that the people that are winning the game play it.
Yes.
So what's the ultimate like defense to what they're doing? Is there any defense at all, or it's just like kind of just a fucked up system that nobody wins except for them?
They've already done it. They've already done it. But that's what I'm saying. It's a masquerade right now, because you remember in 2012, they said that there was going to be a big change, and they used the Mayans and all this shit to try to scare people about a bunch of stuff. But what a lot of people
Yeah.
what a lot of people don't know is the One People's Public Trust lawfully foreclosed corporations and banks and governments for operating slavery and private money systems on December 25th of 2012. So none of this shit is even legit since that day forward. None of it. None of it. We are actually, systematically speaking, we are free people, but they won't give you the opportunity to fucking do it in the first place.
It's just one of those things where we choose our reality depending on how deep we want to peel back the onion layers. Like literally, we can get out of the way by positioning ourselves properly, or we can get steamrolled.
Yeah, and you know what is really funny about the whole thing is they call it the One People's Public Trust, or the OPPT. They announced publicly on December 25th of 2012 that the system of the corporate government rule has been foreclosed, legally foreclosed, via one of its own fucking mechanisms. Right? Like I had said, you propose in the court the mechanism that this is going to happen because we're going to sue these entities, these corporations, for this. And the only way for them to be able to prove it is if they come to court themselves and prove in any other words that what is being done is unjustifiable to them. But they don't show up to court, therefore it defaults in the judgment of the OPPT. Therefore, they have been foreclosed. All all banking, all governments, all corporations, they don't own any of the assets in which they say that they do, because it's owed to you.
I guess it just depends on it's like enforceable laws and unenforceable laws. It's like maybe that's a part of it. Like what's legal.
So if I say someone just broke into my house and stole all the money out of my safe, but the media goes, that never happened, and the court system, who's complicit, goes, that never happened, and the police officers go, that never happened, what leg do I have to stand on? Even though it actually legitimately happened. All of us that are in this chat right now watched this person come in and do this and steal everything out of the safe. And all of us are like, no, yeah, we saw this happen. Like, for real, like we all saw it happen. And they all tell us all the same thing. It didn't happen. We're just going to keep on trucking. We're going to keep on doing what we've always been doing, regardless of the fact that legally all these things have happened, right? The foreclosure of these corporations and the entities being able to put themselves in these positions to own everybody. Everybody. And that means not just the United States citizens, like I was telling you before, every single country that has been economically terrorized by the centralized bankings coming in there and taking over their economies are also enslaved to the same fucking system. And they don't know.
The only way to change is if enough people become state nationals. But there'll probably just be a fringe of people who
what happens?
Understand this
what happens if you renounce citizenship? Is that
You
change?
don't want to do that. You don't have to. You don't have to renounce your citizenship, because you can never get it back, ever, after you do it.
Well, the problem I have is that I don't want to pay U.S. income tax, especially if I'm like never gonna live there,
You'd have to
and
pay
they make you.
you have to pay your state taxes, because think about this. Washington, D.C., where does it sit? On the low.
in that
It's
51
Yeah,
state.
between like New York and Massachusetts and Virginia or something.
it's a District of Columbia. It's not even a part of the unionized states of the United States of America. It's not. Do you want that is the corporation that sits there in the District of Columbia that enslaves you in the first place. So that's why we suggest not renouncing your citizenship, in which the state in which you were born in is the one that gives you your citizenship in the first place. So I would suggest becoming a state national, a state citizen to your state. So you can move from state to state to state. As a matter of fact, when you become a state national, you have the freedom to move all across the whole fucking planet. Nobody can stop you. The passport that you get from the Secretary of Treasury when you file all this paperwork actually is a different type of passport. It has stars over your head. It has actual stars that allocate you as a different type of citizen that allows for you to move wherever the fuck you want to move, as long as that particular country that you're going to actually allows for you to do those types of things. Some countries.
Does that waive me from federal income tax?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. I'm down. How do I do this?
We're working on it. Don't worry. This shit's been going on for 3 years. We got some time. We just need to, you know what I mean? We need to make it a little bit more simple for people, so that way we don't have to have these long drawn out. I mean, it took a better part of an hour to have a little bit of touch and go there with some of the things to be able to just get, a couple people's heads wrapped around it. We need to simplify the nomenclature a little bit more. There's a lot of people that are worried about, everything right now. So everyone's on guard. So we need to make it easier for people. And then also
if I was
the ability of doing a lot of the paperwork for people, so that way they don't even have to do it, right? Because you don't technically have to. You'd have to pay somebody thousands of dollars to be able to get yourself in a position just to have the correct citizenship in the first place. Like Blue Bum, I think he's paid like $10,000 and he still can't get a bank account in the United States because he didn't fill out all the paperwork correctly, which we're going to fix him.
I mean, that's normal. I think to get like a citizenship in like Malta or something, it's like $200,000 or $300,000 investment. And then like a $25,000 fee or something. It's fucking expensive.
Yeah, in Portugal, you got to buy like a $500,000 home and have property.
Yeah, I heard that Portugal was good, but like you can get deferred taxes on crypto, but it's only deferred for like 10 years or something, or like I don't know how long it's deferred, but the nomad capitalist guy is saying he's not big on it anymore because they're
you don't have to. What I'm telling you guys is you don't have to move. You don't have to leave the country. You don't have to go to some other country at all. You don't have to develop some new country like what Richard Hart is talking about. You can do all these things from your laptop at your fucking house.
Okay, but one other question. What if I was born in California and I want to be a Florida national?
No.
Is that okay?
No. Nope. You're still.
Or what if I was born in California? I'm just fucked.
Well, I mean, you pretty much already pledged your allegiance to that particular state anyway when you were born there.
Okay. That sucks.
Well, I mean, at least you're part of the unionized states of all the 50 states that are available to be in the union in the first place. This is the same reason why states like Texas always and forever will keep their availability to de-unionize from the union in the first place. As soon as because they understood that when the Federal Reserve was created, that there may be another loophole for them to try to create within the next however long it takes for people to figure it all out in the first place. It's already been 103 years and they've done pretty well already. And you notice
I mean, like my main reason for not living in the U.S. is literally just to save on expenses, because my expenses are like, I don't know, 1/5 or less when I live in Colombia.
Mm-hmm.
So like I don't know, like there isn't anywhere in the United States, maybe like Montana or something in the middle of nowhere, I can live somewhere in the middle of nowhere, pretty cheaply, but I don't want to live in the middle of nowhere really. Like I like living in a kind of a city or a suburb, really fucking cheap. Like I've seen 10-bedroom places for like 2,000 a month. Like that's my main reason.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I could suggest is don't live in the cities. That's it.
Yeah, I agree.
Try to stay out of the cities because they have their own taxes within the state.
There's more crime in the city.
Yeah. Even with us, you know, I know we got into the secured party creditor and all that type of stuff. We even have to make deals in like backroom private deals that are beneficial to the citizens that are involved in the financial side of private banking. But those deals have to be, it's like a 70-30, right? Where all those other corporations that are currently involved in all the rest of the bullshit fuckery that we call the United States of America and all the other countries that are involved with it, they get 70% of the cut on every private deal that happens in the back. And then we only get 30, which is still a lot. Think about how all the fees on the transactions that happen through wire transfers, which is the only way that finances are actually moved from country to country, from person to person, from state to state, from anywhere to anywhere. It's all through the wire transfer services, which is the reasons why you need KYC. They don't fucking trust you. It's not that they're worried about someone else. They want to know your customer, quote unquote. So you have to do the KYC thing. That's just the way it is, to be able to have access to the availability of using the wires in the first place. But all the fees that go through, I mean, you're talking billions of dollars a year. So 30% of billions of dollars a year, I'm fine with it. I'm fine with that. The end goal is to try to put yourself in a position so that way you claim ownership and have ownership of your own international trading desk. The only way to give yourself access to those things is you got to play the fucking game. You got to know the rules. You have to play this. You can't be a zealot. You can't be some sort of vigilante in any type of way. And that's why it's tough to get involved in these things, to go teach a bunch of people about these things. I don't know who you guys are. I don't know what your capabilities and your mentalities are and whether you're actually sick mentally or not. And you're going to get this type of information and then become some sort of what the government would consider a national terrorist, right?
Running the
and
risk of that, sure.
Yes.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're a Republican, you're like a national terrorist now.
Well, I mean, that is an example. That is an example.
Right. I think in many ways, just being in this Icosa Telegram chat has weeded out a lot of people that aren't even capable of understanding this message, let alone proceeding forward with this type of powerful information.
Yeah. I mean, we can talk about it all day, but when you put it into practice, like, you got to be very careful. Believe me, the non-disclosure agreements will get tossed out everywhere. That way, it's like, if I can't trust you because I'm not sure about your shit, at least I'm making sure that if you do go give away proprietary information or trade secrets in any way or anyone's actual personal information, that I'll take every fucking thing that you own because you fucked up. We already knew that this was the case. And it's not it's not vague at all. It's very clear, very specific.
I like it. Yeah, 100%. That's great. Yeah, I'm just so excited about this, Executioner. I appreciate you, taking the charge on this, and I'm really looking forward to what you come up with. And I want to be first in line.
We're working on it, right? Like, even the people that I have to deal with, I have to have my own specific set of reservations as well, right?
I understand. I have a couple friends that have gone down the path, one pretty far, and I can't quite go into how far, but I was wondering if you think it'd be advantageous for me to start the process with them, so at least I've got something started, for when potentially you'll be able to help um, the first 30-day people or whatever it was that you'd mentioned.
Sure. I mean, like, do you already have? I'm assuming you have your birth certificate. A lot of people don't because they lose them,
Yeah,
right? But you can get it.
yes, I do have it. That was the first time when Kevin had mentioned California being maybe not. Is there any difference as to what state you're born in regards to uh,
No,
being a state national? That's what I thought. Okay,
no,
so no
it
big deal
doesn't.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, I got my birth certificate. Yep.
Okay. Do you already have your passport?
I do. Well,
It's
I had one 20 years ago and I lost it, and I don't know what that
sweet.
means in the process.
Okay. Awesome. Because if you do have it, you're going to have to somehow lose it in a fucking boating accident somehow, right? And you can't legally do that shit, right? And I can't legally like give you this advice either because I'm not a lawyer. So,
Like 100%. I already lost it. Like I went traveling really young before I was 20 outside of the country, and I haven't been out of the country since. And yeah, I literally lost my passport.
okay, because you're going to get established in doing this process a whole different type of passport, right? A whole new passport that's
Right.
under this different jurisdiction. And you'll also have another identity, which is your identity, but and just to prove that you are who you are, like your driver's license, but it's an international driver's permit also. So you'll have your state driver's license, you'll have your
Right.
international driver's permit, and then you'll have your new passport that doesn't really look
Yes.
any different than your current passport and what you had, but it'll just have these stars over your head, right? And most
Okay.
people don't understand what those are.
What looks really nice to me is the fact that you can control your straw man account. You don't give up your citizenship. And in effect, you don't stick your neck out as far, and you don't become a target because of doing that, right? So I really like the idea that, you're playing it very safe.
Yeah, well, I will say this. Since the further I dive into this, I realize that you just can't get away from these three-letter agencies because they're really deep. They're in every fucking thing. Every single
Yep.
banking
Yep.
terminal that's anything with wire transfers, there's at least one individual that's there sitting at the desk. So you, no matter what you do when you do these types of things, yes, they are probably going to look into you just like they normally would when you were going to get your passport in the first place to make sure that you're not a terrorist, right? I mean, it's just normal procedure that they would do anyway. So yeah, but at least you're not going to be put under scrutiny, right? Because like I said, we're going to do this under the peace and love. We're not trying to claim like lose our
Yeah.
allegiance to the United States, right? Or the state
Yeah.
in which I was born in. There's still a constitution for every single individual state in which I would claim allegiance to, and I'm still going to pay my state taxes. I'm just claiming the ownership of
So I
my.
wonder if I wonder the people that you help out along this process, if you could include some sort of protection in this regard in the NDA that you have people sign. So not only is an NDA to protect yourself, but also to protect them as well.
Yeah,
In
that's
essence.
usually every NDA that can actually be legitimate and enforceable has to appropriate a stance for both parties to be beneficial, right? Like one of the parties will receive, okay, like let's say I go get a job somewhere, and in that job, like with Northrop Grumman, a defense contractor of the government, they're going to have you sign NDA because there's trade secrets that you may actually learn. And in getting you as an employee of them, they're going to be able to get your work, your acknowledgement, your intelligence, and they'll make money off of you bringing that to the table, in which they will give you a salary. They will pay you, So there's a tit for tat on both ends of that. In regards, they will not give away your proprietary information, or they cannot give away your proprietary information, and you cannot give away their proprietary information, and both parties receive something for it as well. So it's a positive enforcing structure in those NDAs in the very first place, and they have to not be vague. They have to be very specific in the understanding, so that people can't just you can't just have somebody sign an NDA and now they can't speak in any terms to anybody about anything. A judge would laugh and throw it out because it can't be enforced that way. So these things have to be very clear, very defined. And yes, you have to receive some sort of compensation on both sides in some sort of way. Compensation is better. I know I went through this long drawn out Northrop Grumman thing, but to make it very simply clear, compensation must be received by both parties in some sort of way.
Is if I did this for California, and then I lived in Colombia, would I have to pay California taxes still?
Yes.
Oh, fuck that shit.
Even Richard Hart, living in the country that he's living in, you can never actually break away your ties from that in the first place. You could give up your availability of being a citizen to any nation altogether, right? Which makes you nationless. Not a good idea, right?
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure that United States is the only country that makes you pay their income tax when you don't live there. Like, if you're a UK citizen and you have residency in Colombia and then you go work in Colombia, you don't have to pay, as far as I know, UK taxes, but you do have to pay the Colombian taxes because you're living there. And actually, I think there might be a loophole because a lot of countries say that you need to be living there, 6 months before you have to pay their taxes.
Yep.
So there might be a loophole where if you only live in 4 countries 3 months out of the year each, you don't have to pay any income taxes at all.
If you renounce your citizenship, which makes you nationless and not protected under any constitutional rights, you're not protected under anything at all at that point, then you're going to have to make sure that you had put yourself in a position to grant yourself access to another nation where they'll take you on as a citizen. However, that citizenship in that particular country is not going to have this social security that the Federal Reserve had put it into this position where they're actually adding funds to this account, this trust account that you're never aware of in the very first place, because they don't do those things that way. They've already been taken over by the corporation, which is the United States in the first place. And that country, when they pay their taxes, they pay it to that financial structure. So that's why you pay taxes.
So you're saying maybe in the future, 10 years from now, there might be a benefit of being a United States citizen that I'm not aware of? Because
you're going to end up having to pay them whether you like it or not, Kevin.
Really? Because I'm pretty sure, I don't know if you follow the Nomad Capitalist, but he renounced citizenship. I don't think he pays U.S. taxes.
Well, no, because he would be
now.
a citizen of a totally different country in which he'd have to be under their tax structure, which that tax structure pays the entities, which are the corporations in the first place, to allow for them to use wire transfers to keep their economy going. And if they didn't, their economy would be completely destroyed, which we've seen happen to a lot of countries already.
Yeah, I think he's a dual citizen of Georgia and Colombia, and maybe he's literally collecting citizenships.
Yeah, and then for every single different country that you would go get a citizenship for, then you are going to have to pay taxes for every single one of those. Like Bluebone, he's a dual citizen for Australia and for the United States. Any taxes that he would incur at all must be paid to Australia and the United States. So it'd be better to not have multiple citizenships, because then you're actually paying more, and that doesn't make any sense. That's actually quite nonsensical to me.
But a lot of countries, I think, only make you pay their income tax, even if you're a citizen, if you're living there. So
whatever this percentage, this is what I would do. California is a tricky one because their state taxes are fucking high, right? But there are certain states that are out there. Hopefully you were born in those particular states. then you would have to make those choices at that time, right? Like, is the country that I'm going to actually pledge allegiance to, are their income taxes or any other taxes that they apply to their people, which could be a varied all sorts of things, is it higher than the state tax in which I would have normally paid if I would have just been able to put myself in the category of being a non-party a secured party creditor in the first place, and have the availability of claiming ownership of my my treasury, my legal name and treasury in the first place, as the benefactor and trustee of it, right?
Well, I don't know. My plan was either St. Kitts, which is like a $200,000 or $300,000 investment, and then like $30,000 bond or something, or fee or something, and then renounce. But then I wouldn't be able to enter the U.S. That's the only problem. But I could get a visa to enter, or I could get a second citizenship. And by the way, St. Kitts doesn't have capital gains.
And does the passport for those specific countries allow you the availability of freedom of movement to how many countries? It could be 20, it could be 100. There are some that have, like, I think Switzerland is one of the better ones because it gives you the availability of freedom of movement to like 150.
Yeah, Switzerland is a really good one, but I think it's super hard to get Switzerland citizenship unless you are born there or you have some sort of ancestral. But St. Kitts, you literally just pay a fee, and then like 6 months later, I think you have entry to like 150 countries, but they're not like A-list countries like the United States. I don't think you can't enter the United States unless you're a U.S. citizen. Like, you can have both St. Kitts and U.S. citizen, but then you're gonna have to pay federal income tax anywhere in the world. You're gonna have to pay U.S. federal income tax, whether you live in the U.S. or not, unless you renounce your citizenship. But then I think Malta.
You could still be a citizen of the state in which you were born in and not have to renounce your citizenship, claim ownership of your trust, not pay federal taxes, just pay state taxes, which in my state is only like 9% or some shit, which maybe even less than that.
If it, like, this sounds really attractive only if I don't have to live in California.
No, you don't have to live in California.
No, if I don't live in California, then I don't have to pay their taxes. And I think that hopefully California is like Colombia. If you're not in Colombia 6 months, you don't have to pay their taxes. Like,
yeah, that's why everybody's leaving. Or all
leaving.
U.S. citizens are fleeing from California to other states that have less state taxes.
Yeah, it's one of them. Like, California literally just, the governor just wrote a bill, or like a law, not even a law. He just by decree, your oil pipeline is a government sanctuary, which means that you will never be able to take it out of the sanctuary, which means it will never produce oil ever again.
But Kevin, you're always going to be
California
37% federal income tax, no matter what you do, no matter what state that you moved from or whatever, which is significantly higher than your state tax. Even in California isn't 37%.
Yeah, at least the U.S. you do get like $110,000 tax break if you're not in the U.S. 360 days. I'm not sure. Like, I got to look into that more to see what constitutes 360 days. Does that mean not working, or does that mean, like, do you have to work 360 days outside the U.S. to get that tax break? I got to figure that out.
I don't think it matters because it's income tax anyway, right? Even if you did work, you're still going to have to pay your federal taxes for those things if you are a U.S. citizen, no matter what.
Yeah, and I've never worked I've never paid taxes after working remotely, so I don't know if like, even though I'm working remotely, I'm gonna have to pay the federal income tax anyways because I'm working for a U.S. company. In which case, renouncing wouldn't make any sense anyways.
No, And if you became a secured party creditor, you wouldn't have to pay federal tax anymore, only state tax, which cuts 37.5% of your taxes out of the whole middleman is completely cut out, and you become the middleman. You are actually becoming the bank, pretty much.
Yeah, that sounds really like, actually, when I think about the fact that I'm actually working for a US company remotely, then I might have to pay the taxes anyways, whether I'm a citizen or not. Like, that actually might make a lot more sense to be a state national.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. But getting there that's the road that takes a lot of research. And you could, like, it's not so easily readily available to go to Google the shit and find a lot of information about it, because I'm pretty sure that you would understand that these corporations that have claimed the slavery of every single person with a social security number doesn't want you to know that that is the case. So they scrub that shit. Right. But if you go to the Department of Justice, it explains it very clearly in there that this is true. This is not some sort of conspiracy. This isn't some rando thing that people just talk about. This is legitimate. And this
Yeah, I've
is
heard something like that a few times, but I was like, okay, like, now what?
right. Now what? Now what do I do? Right. Usually you have to pay like 10, sometimes even $100,000, depending on who you actually go to get the correct paperwork filed. And we want to be available to provide the opportunity to people, whether it be through a free will offering or a donation thing. First come, first serve. We start your paperwork as soon as some sort of acknowledgement to the whole thing. I mean, we're even connecting cryptocurrency to it to have the availability for fiat on and off board type of on-ramp, right? That would be a bank that does these backdoor deals just like everything else. And the people who would stake the particular token get paid all the fees, all the backdoor deal fees, all the everything. Right?
What if there was like some like contingency in, like, 200 years ago, where someone was lost at sea for 10 years and then they came back?
They have to be able to prove they are who they are. Otherwise,
okay.
if you can't prove you are who you are, then that's you're dead still to them. Like, I can just walk up to anybody and say, "Hey, I'm Kevin." And can I prove it? Nope, I can't. I cannot prove that I'm Kevin. Only Kevin can prove that he's Kevin, because Kevin is the one that actually has the treasury that's allocated to his social security number, that he has the availability to claim ownership if he just knew what to do. Which we start talking about beneficiaries, we start talking about trusts, we start talking about trustees, we start talking about grantors, we start talking about all these types of things.
So you're saying that I could actually still have access to that $300 million you're talking about?
Yep.
And
you'd
there's
have
people...
to know. You can't take you can't if you got access to your $300 million and you went and took out $300 million, you know what would happen to you within the next week?
Heart attack.
You'd be legitimately lost at sea. Right? If you go take, like, if you want to go incur a bunch of debt on some sort of black card that you get from a private bank, right? And spend $3 million on a home and then discharge that debt 1 month later and have ownership of that particular asset as yours, then you can do that. You just need to know the ways to be able to file that paperwork and to do those things. If you went and tried to take out $3 million to go buy food and cars and like spend actual cash on these things and not incur any debt to get any interest fees, you know how you get your credit score up, right? Right? You gotta
wait. So
you got to actually.
There are actually people out there who have claimed some of their $300 million and they're just like, living on yachts or something.
Yes.
Wow.
They're what we consider billionaires now.
Wow.
Yeah. For real.
So what if all the Hexicans did this and just bought Hex with it?
Oh, man. You'd have $10 Hex or some shit.
$40.
But then But then you know that you wouldn't have some centralized other third party in between of your assets in which you purchase that can shut your keys off or take your shit from you at any point in time. And that's why we're saying that, like, Hex is like the thing, right? It is the creme de la creme. Like all these other things are suiciding themselves and people are suiciding themselves. And here we are. Is like, I talk to new people all the time about crypto. And sometimes I like have family members that know that I'm involved in it. And like, I don't really talk to them because there's certain people that you just can't talk to because they just want to fucking argue about everything. And it's like arguing with a drunk child, right? Like people
Yeah,
that
you
don't
can't
know
win the
anything.
argument because then they just walk away or something.
Or you just want to walk away because it's like, it's
Yeah.
nonsensical argument where they're claiming to know what they're talking about, but through their discourse prove that they have no fucking clue what they're talking about. So you can't have an argument, or not an intelligent one, with a unintelligent person. And it's not their fault that they're unintelligent. I mean, they could be intelligent on all the colors of Roy G. Biv, right? That's fine. You're the most intelligent person that knows how to mix colors together to create another color, right? Which there could be other people that don't know anything about colors, right? They're colorblind, as a matter of fact. And therefore, you're now superior to them because you know that this color and this color makes another color, or multitudes of colors makes a brown color, right? Or whatever. Right. And that, I'm just simplifying it to retard standards here. Right.
Thank you.
But you just don't get into those arguments. And I've through the holidays, right, I've had, because I kind of did some of my Christmas stuff early with all the traveling and I came back home. But I got a lot of, did you get hurt in the FTX thing? Did you get hurt in the liquidations of those other things? I said, no, hell no. My community and my people have nothing to do with any of that stuff. And there are some family members that, like, from the last conversations that we had, kind of looked into stuff a little bit more, and they actually had some intelligent things to bring to the table about some stuff. But those intelligent things that they brought to the table just reinforced my arguments, which ended up not even being arguments. It became normal type of discourse and a conversation that was actually fruitful at that point in time. And maybe that's what it took to give them the time and the opportunity to go and look up under their own means to be able to gain some sort of security with, like I'm saying, even family members, right? Like, you tell them all this, they're like, oh, it's a scam. Be like, dude, do you think I'm a fucking retard or what? Because I'm getting offended here, like really quite offended, right? That I'm trying to help you. And then at the end, they're like, oh, I see what you were talking about now. Well, why is that? Because someone else that you don't even fucking know on some random YouTube channel or some fucking random website somewhere went and told you. Now you want to listen? Because you are starting to understand that maybe I know a hell of a lot more than what you got out of that YouTube video or that Google that you did or some shit like this. Because I actually,
okay. We're ahead of the curve. We have to.
Yeah, I think. Well, there's a certain type of person. There's a certain type of person that is very good at convincing dumb people what to believe. I'm not one of those persons, and I'm not like somebody who particularly wants to be one of those people, but I've noticed that, like, for example, the keto diet, like I told my fat friend about the keto diet 10 years ago, and I explained to him in very detail, like, why it works and how it works and everything, and you just think I'm full of shit. And then, like, a year ago or something, he tells me he's doing keto. I'm like, dude, I told you that about you that like 10 years ago. And he's like, I mean, he just found somebody who spoke retarded to him or something.
They know how crayons work. Yeah, it's frustrating when you actually care, right? It's hard to help people because people generally, they don't want to be helped because they see that reading something that might be difficult to understand, like you may have to read a paragraph a couple of times. You may have to take some of the words that you don't understand in it and actually go look up the definitions of the words and then extrapolate what those definitions are to make a generalized understanding of what you're reading. Yes, it's work, but it's what it takes, man. They want to confuse you for very good reasons. They want to take all your shit. Period. So it's tough to get people to understand that you're not one of those people. You would actually, what you want to do in the difficulty of the understanding of how all these things actually work, which we talk about trusts and all these types of things, which are technically complicated. It's all paperwork anyway, right? It's all contractual paperwork that gives you the availability to prove that it even exists, which is the same thing as your straw man to prove that you're actually a living human being in the first place. Otherwise, you're disguised as being a person who was lost at sea. How confusing
Power
and
of the pen
is that?
is mightier than the sword.
Yes. That's a great quote. Yes. Perfect. People just don't, and then it's even harder these days because everyone's over inundated, right? Everybody's, even look at the movies. Look at the movies that come out today. They're designed to overstimulate your brain. So from the beginning of the movie to the end of the movie, generally, you don't even remember half the shit that happened at the beginning. That's why they're 2 hours, 3 hours fucking long, making it even uncomfortable for you to sit in their uncomfortable chairs.
Right. It's just entertainment. And that's what people want. They want, like, they're in the rat race and they basically need, an escape from the rat race. And so these entertainment things hit all the right receptors like dopamine and serotonin. It's another form of a drug.
Well, then everything else is to calculably hit the rest of your receptors, like sports. You'll find out that the majority of entertainment is actually very divisive, to divide you away from other people. Like, you've got 2 separate football teams, and
True.
in that stadium, you've got 2 separate groups of people who fucking hate each other because of
So
it.
literally, it's a mentality that it's like that's the real programming, is where, it's almost hidden in plain sight, and yet everyone takes part in it because we have kind of this, like, I would call it like a genetic remembrance of taking sides, right?
Yeah.
And that's ultimately, like, that's like that's the biggest part of the problem. Once we realize that there isn't much separation and we're all actually connected in some way or another, and that for ourselves to succeed, we need to make sure that everyone else succeeds too. Not in like a socialism way, but energetic.
And you know how they capture the people who consider themselves not easily manipulated, but they still capture them? Gambling. The availability of being able to win because you think you're smarter than everybody else. Even in a football game where you have this divisive 2 different teams and 2 different fan bases that are there,
Yeah, that's true.
you may not have people who are fans, but they are only there to gamble because they want to win. And how many of them actually win? Most of them do not. They give up their availability of having the assets in the first place willingly, just under the guise of being able to win.
So I think, some people will circle back around and seek out the truth, a certain percentage, right? And they'll be led to Hex, and and so our Ponzi continues. No, but even Richard Hart talks about that. It's like everything's a Ponzi, like not in the true definition of the term, but in the way that people actually use the term, which is you basically need new money coming in. But I'm just saying that because people will eventually educate themselves and realize that, this is kind of what crypto was invented for, like Hex and everything built off of Hex, and having that be the new store of value. Because Bitcoin was great that it broke the ice, but it's outdated software, and there were some problems in it because it was the first one. So it's not like we're still flying the Wright brothers airplanes anymore, right?
Right. Something else that I know this is a little off topic, but something that I saw was a little strange was, you saw like a couple of days ago, Elon Musk made a tweet about how he was changing the rules of Twitter, that if you were to try to utilize Twitter to give yourself engagement on other social platforms, that you'd be banned. And it was like this list of all these other social platforms that you could be trying to Like
didn't see that, but
if I was to put like my Instagram account on my Twitter thing, then I could be banned, or my YouTube or other types of things that are on
if you
there.
were
In
trying to cross-platform or something, yeah, okay.
Yes. Yeah. But and I've seen a couple of these different things with all different other types of social platforms that are doing kind of the same thing. But the one social platform that I notice is never mentioned is Telegram, ever, not at all.
Interesting.
I don't know how it's interesting, but it is interesting, right? Like, I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's true.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck is going on there, but I'm like, something fish, something weird. I don't know what the fuck, guys, but
And it's weird. People don't know about Telegram, and they don't even see like how valuable it actually is. It's weird.
yeah. Like
Yeah, I mean,
Telegram.
I think we were saying that
Go ahead, Kevin.
we'd be saying that about I don't know, Google in like 2005. Like, why aren't people using it? You know, like nobody's using it.
I think that in Telegram's contract agreement, it like clearly states that they are not gonna they cannot and will not give up your information. That it's like a contractual agreement between you and them that your proprietary information is protected, and like all the other, like, how often do you have an update on Telegram that makes you sign a new contract agreement to be able to continue usage of it? I never have. I've had updates, but I've never had to actually sign anything that said I was agreeing to new terms and
Yeah,
conditions.
that's true. That's true.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
my Apple phone, every single time I have an update, I've got way too much to read to be able to understand what I'm actually agreeing to. And I must agree to it. Otherwise, I can't even use my fucking phone anymore. Right.
You know, it's funny because as you guys were talking about Telegram and how great it is, I was just thinking like it would be great to to use it as a landline and to make sure everyone that I do business with has it, and to have that so if the cell networks go down but we still have internet at all of our homes, then we have that communication. And obviously we're using it right now. It's like an amazing thing that we can talk to everyone around the world in real time on a seemingly decentralized platform. So far so good from what I've seen.
Absolutely, man. It would be so useful to if you had like family members or close friends or whatever, or business associates, like everybody linked up on it. It's such an easy, direct way, leaving an open chat and everything, and then just pick up where you jump in and people are talking and you can listen and add to it. It's phenomenal, man. It's a phenomenal product.
And it seems like none of these other big giant corporations that own those social media platforms like Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and the rest of that, they don't want to talk about Telegram. They don't want to fuck with it. They want to.
I think the biggest distinguishing factor is there's no way to advertise, correct? Am I right?
I mean, we could advertise. They could. Whenever I talk to anybody about crypto, the one place that I send them is I say all the crypto people, like the legitimate crypto people, are all in Telegram.
I mean,
Absolutely.
like within the Telegram community, you can't sell anything. There's no.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It's very hard to
And I think,
monetize this.
yeah, I think that's the distinguishing factor. So it's social media devoid of that.
Yeah, that makes sense. The monetization of it, yeah, that makes sense for sure. Like, I can't just have a. I guess it is kind of happening with some of those other private groups that they have, like that Back Builder group and the Gains Theory group and the Vault.
Okay, so
Like
for
that.
private groups, that's fine though, because that's how it always should be, right? Almost like a PMA, a private membership association. Like,
Yep.
if you're in the group and you join the group, then you're subject to their stuff, but not having like one unified platform where everyone's, all these advertising dollars are going into the algorithms and essentially like playing people.
Yeah, it's not centralized. It's very decentralized.
I'm extremely thankful for Telegram. Yeah, this is great. That's why I was just like, I'm going to spend $3 a month and become a premium member. They deserve my $3 a month.
Yeah, I think it's a Dubai it's a Dubai company, right?
I
No, I
never looked into it ever.
I thought it was China, but what's that? The good part of China, if there is such a thing.
Hong Kong, it was a good
Yeah,
part.
yeah, Hong
Actually,
Kong, but maybe it
probably
moved.
Taiwan was a better part. But yeah, they really last year, 2 years ago or something, they really China, like Hong Kong doesn't really exist anymore. It's China
The
now.
ability to network with people all across the world and actually like get to the bottom of what truth really is exceptional in Telegram. You know, that's why I'm a Hexican, I think. Well, no, I guess I was watching RH's YouTube videos, but like it's definitely why I'm a Hedronian and Icosian.
Yeah, I don't think I would have actually bought Hex if it wasn't for Telegram. Like I was watching his YouTube videos, but like the how-tos and all that, like and how Hex works, and like all my questions were really answered on Telegram.
Yeah, we're fortunate. It's going to be an amazing bull market coming up, and we just got to be patient.
You know, we actually should probably be onboarding people by sending them to Telegram. The only problem is that you kind of dox yourself when you do that, because I mean, unless you have like, yeah, you kind of do dox yourself, because once they're in your Telegram group, and they have your number, like they know who you are,
No,
and then they
you
could
don't have to.
theoretically.
You don't have to have that setting. You can make it to where your phone number isn't visible to anyone.
No, I mean, your phone number is invisible, but I've had like every time a friend joins Telegram, it notifies me, and then I see their handle, you know,
Because you have their
because I have their phone number.
You were already doxed to that particular individual anyway. It's really anybody else.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm hyper paranoid about like, oh, I invited this guy into Telegram. I don't really know if he's my friend, if he could dox me to everybody else or something. I don't know.
I think
Yeah,
that
yeah.
I think that through like the 30 seconds of research that I just did, I find, which is pretty simple, right? I find that okay, so this is what's clarified. Secret chats use client-to-client encryption for messages on Telegram. It means that there's no middle party like Telegram staff or your internet service provider that can see messages, photos, videos, and files. Because of this, it does create a particular problem, right? It's researchers found that a combination of simplicity and security found in Telegram has provided a perfect communication hub for attackers and cyber criminals. That's why we tell people about the dangers of Telegram and to how to be able to protect themselves and their own security by not being fooled by DMs. We don't answer DMs. We don't do these types of things here. We stay in the public chats, even in the private chats. We speak in the public part of the private chat. Don't get into singular DMs where people are asking you private information about you that you may unwillingly give up on accident, or be tricked into giving it up because it looks like Alex is messaging you, or Richard Hart is messaging you, which, I mean, we've seen it. I'm sure every single one of us has seen it, where it looks damn near fucking pretty well close to legit because a capital I looks like a lowercase L, right? So it is kind of easy for them to try to do those things, but the majority of us are knowledgeable of those things. But we would have to, like, when I tell my friends or the people that I onboard that like all the people who know a lot of shit about crypto, the majority of crypto people are in Telegram, that you need to come in here. But I have to express to you that there's these certain things that you must adhere to. Like, it is dangerous out there. Like, people will get information from you and things like this because you don't have those types of protections, because Telegram is so damn secure. Right. Which is so funny because sometimes I get DMs from people that I just pretty much tell them that, like, I got one from Alex the other day. Oh, I wish I would have actually saved it. before they deleted their account, like I suggested that they should do. Even the scammers, I try to help them in understanding that they can't, that if they're going to try to come and scam me, that it would be pretty easy for me to understand that their internet service provider that may be protected by a VPN is still connecting through a port in the country in which they reside. So through the country in which they reside, that open port, which could just be 4 individual numbers, it's all allocated as soon as you connect. But those 4 numbers are connected to an IP address in the first place through their internet service provider. And because of that, I can find you. I don't care if you have a VPN, because I'm smart and I'm intelligent, that if you continue to badger my community or me, I will fuck you up. Okay, so stop. Delete your account now. And whether I'm being honest or truthful about these particular things, they don't know because they're fucking idiots. So they just delete their accounts immediately as soon as they see that I've put anything like that on there.
Yeah, I think part of the problem is that we've been so coddled by the system for our whole lives that we don't like. We're not used to all the scams that have come about by having total privacy. But if we didn't grow up in such a protected world, we probably would be more paranoid about those things and less likely to fall for them.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a criminal and you're like doing bad shit, then you should probably be worried about stuff. But if you're not a criminal and you don't have anything to worry about, then why would you go through so much stuff to try to protect some things that could easily be protected? Because it only becomes public when you make it public. It only becomes known when you make it known. Period. Right? So I don't know if it's fucking true that through the ports and with the country that you're in, that you would be able to track somebody past a certain amount of VPNs. It's probably true. Do I have the technical capabilities of being able to do it myself? Fuck no. Why would I go? I don't care to track nobody down. I don't care to find where anybody's at, right? I would rather be just as lazy as the rest of y'all, right? My interest in other things and how things really work is where I spend the majority of my time on educating myself on how things really work. But I'm not a criminal. I don't need to hide anything. I know how to keep my proprietary information private by not allowing for it to be public in any way. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I just mean is like someone DMs you and you're like, oh, here's my seed phrase. Like that comes from that comes from being coddled your whole life. Like you never had to worry about scammers ever.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's people out there that don't even read when they hit. So there was a guy that went in to the auctions, right? And his name is ABCD space EFGH. That's his fucking Telegram name, which suggests to me is probably a scammer, right? I looked him up. They were in the Hedron chat back in February when it first launched, made about 30 different comments and has never spoke again. Just came into the Icosa chat. And last night, which was the thing that intrigued me to even look at it in the first place, because I'm like, ABCD space EFGH, like that's weird, right? Like this is probably somebody that I'm just going to immediately ban. But I saw that they had some comments that made some sense, so I didn't ban them. And then today, after I'd gotten home, I saw that they had a question. And the question was, why didn't I get any hex from the stake that I just ended? Right? And someone was like, well, it should be there. Like the contract can't take your stuff. And I said, is there maybe a potential that you emergency instaked this particular contract? And they go, no, I got it from the auction. I bought it from the auction.
Oh no.
And I went and I tried to get the hex out of it and it's all gone. And I said, do you even know what so the first time I used the term emergency instake and they said no. And then I immediately said, do you know what EES is? And he goes, no. And I said, okay, so you fucked up. You done fucked up. And the way that you fucked up is you didn't read this statement. And you guys can even, if you're in the Hedron chat, you can even scroll back. I'm sure it's not very far up because that chat doesn't really get a whole lot of engagement like Icosa does. And you can see that I posted the warning that it tells you that the stake is not to the point in which you're actually, available to end it without taking some sort of penalty. Like, it tells you that even if you do it through the app.icosa.pro or the hedron.pro to make an HSI or the go.hex.com site, like, there are warnings all over the place that tell you these things, and all you fucking need to do is read. Like, it doesn't even say in stake. It's a totally different function that's there. And by the way, the guy said it was a 5555. I ended a 5555. I said, there's no technical possible any fucking way in hell that you could have ever ended that stake and got anything, because you have to, we all know that you have to go through half of the contract to just get the principal back in the first place, which Hex hasn't even been out for 7.5 years, which would suggest a 5555 made on day one would have to actually commit to be able to get just the principal back at all, right? And with the price appreciation being so low right now, even 1000x is pretty good, but I'm pretty sure that nobody even has the availability to buy it as an HSI, because that didn't even exist until February. So there's no way that you could have taken this 555. So, I mean, I didn't go that far, but I wanted to write a book for this particular individual and be like, look, man, if you would have just read the one red statement that popped up in the first, if you would have went to the actions and saw that the actions said mint hedron or emergency in stake, it doesn't say in stake, it says emergency in stake. And if you know anything about Hex, because you did a little bit of research, I mean the minimalist amount of research at all about Hex, then you would know what an EES is. So then I'm going, man, you know what I think is happening here is, how all these other communities have these scammers and these like people who come in and like try to get the seed phrases from all the people. They're actually, like, in some sort of way, they're investing. They're actually buying Hex. They're actually buying Hedron. They're fucking buying Icosa. They're using the contracts. You think that they are in these other fucking things that they're scamming people on? I highly doubt it. And they're either not from this country, they don't speak very good English, or they're lazy scammers in the first place. They would rather have somebody give them money instead of actually go out and work hard or do something intelligent to be able to gain the money and the confidence to be able to have something worthwhile in their life in the first place. So it doesn't surprise me that these types of people won't read one fucking phrase that says you're about to nuke this motherfucker. So in turn, the rest of the community, after seeing my little thing that it was telling them that you fucked up and you shouldn't have done that, was like everyone coming out and being like, thank you for your service. Pretty much. Yeah. He's like, oh, half of the Hex went to another address, and I don't know where the rest of it went. Yeah, it went to us, motherfucker, the stakers. You shouldn't have done that.
In the OA.
Yep. Yeah. So, I mean, that's where I go, oh, man, like, do I really want to get into these complicated things on how the real world actually works and actually help a lot of people? Like, yes, I do. But man, I can't have a whole lot of hope for mankind when they can't even read some simple stuff that tells you that you're making a mistake, right? Like, those people they're gonna have to be slaves for the rest of their lives. There's nothing that can help them. But I would like to be able to at least have the opportunity to reach out to certain people that have the availability or the mindset to do a little bit of research to put themselves in a better place to be able to understand how these things work. Right. And like I said, even I have my own reservations with being involved with people who are talking about all these things and like getting involved with these things. Even I have to be like having private conversations with them about how can you convince to me that what we are doing here and what you're doing here and what we're going to try to get people involved in is actually legitimate. Right. So I need to have those types of things in front of me. Money is a motivator of most people, but money will not be a motivator in which I'm going to put myself in danger. If you knew that if I gave you $1 million, that you'd get the $1 million, but in the end course of it, that you had to die within 24 hours, would you take the $1 million? I hope to God that all of you guys would answer no. I hope to God, unless you like already knew you're going to die within the next 24 hours anyway. But then again, why the fuck are you in a Telegram chat, right? You should be living your life like all the rest of the hours that you got left, right? So even I am obviously, through the conversation that we had, doing an incredible amount of research to make sure that anything that anybody is telling me on an outside source in any way as a third party to come to me and say, hey, look, these are the things that we can do to people. We need to be teaching people. Like, do they have the same mentality as I do, that they actually genuinely want to help people and they're not being disingenuous at all? Yes, I'm going to take that extra step to make sure that these things are what they are and that it's going to be legitimate. So like, I need to have actual contract in front of me with signed signature of people who have doxed themselves and shown me their driver's licenses to prove that they are who they say they are, before I'm going to actually go out even further and take that next step to actually be able to say, okay, when we're talking about doing these things for being able to be secured party creditors and doing other people's paperwork and doing all these things, I believe that it's something that people will not be hurt or injured in any fucking way at all. And then we'll go ahead and let it rip at that point in time. Believe me, when I got to that point and I'm giving you guys a hell of a lot more information than what I currently have, then you'll know that I have done at least what I can do on my side to give you the opportunities to do the further research, to give you the confidence that I've given myself, right? And if these people aren't...
You mean like, are we not felons or something, or convicts, or like, what do you mean?
Not you guys. I'm talking about the people that are trying to develop these things, with me included, be able to unleash this in the first place, right? Like, there can be emails that can be manipulated in some sort of way, and I'm not gonna fucking just believe that. Oh, I got an email from this bank president that said this shit's cool, this shit's gonna work, and da-da-da. I'm not gonna believe that. You need, since, first of all, this is what we're gonna do. I'm going to give you the security and the understanding that we can go ahead and sign a non-disclosure agreement where both of us as parties will be protected in the information that we transfer between each other. Therefore, any information that you transfer from you to me will be proprietary in the understanding that I won't even legally have the availability to tell anybody else, so you're protected. So why don't you give me the information? We're already going to dox each other to each other in the first place on the promise area of the understanding that we're going to do this to try to help other people. But I won't bring bringing other people in that don't have to do all that. You don't have to dox yourself. You don't have to do all this other shit and be so goddamn complicated with all those things. I would rather do it myself, right? And then when I gain that security in the first place, which, I mean, everything that I've looked up and everything that I've gotten is all looks legit. It's all, in my understanding, very legit. But you still don't have product, right? It's hard in cryptocurrency to have product when it's so complicated, right? So you have to do a certain amount of due diligence previous to actually having product to be like, yes, this shit works. We got it right here and it's working just fine, like Richard can do now. Like, nobody knew that Hex wasn't a scam until Hex actually was Hex. And it was a thing for you to actually buy and stake with it, go through your staking terms, use it, be able to sell it, know that all the complicated things and the reasons why it works the way that it does, instead of having a centralized exchange that has your keys and may or may not allow for the button to work at any point in time, that Richard doesn't have that availability, right? It just takes time for those things to happen after there's a product in the first place. But you still have to garner some sort of interest to the thing in the very, very first place, which happened to be a, oh, what do they call it? With the Bitcoin thing. Where, like, if you put my number into the thing and say that I was the person that brought you over to this, what the fuck do you call that?
The give me 1 Bitcoin, I'll give you 2 or something.
No. This no. This was actually legitimate in how Richard actually did it.
Okay.
It was
the
like
free claim?
the free claim type of thing, but it was God damn it. It was like when you go to the website and it says, how did you learn about this particular free claim? And you put in my number. And then because you put in my number, it gave me like 20% of whatever it was.
Oh,
Even
the referral program.
Yes, yeah. The referral program gave people the understanding to be educated on what was happening and what it was. But then you still had to have some sort of education that you could go get from, which was in a telegram with all sorts of documentations and people just talking about the intricacies of what it was working, being able to talk to the dev specifically, being able to talk to Richard, which he was more available then because he wasn't so busy like he is now, specifically about how the things worked, garnered you some more confidence and things like that. That's just pretty much what I'm doing, right? In the same respect. And I'm a part of the damn team, right? So I'm taking this very, very seriously. So, and it's not, yeah, go ahead.
What is like, do you know of any like high profile people that have done this and not been like, well, he's an enemy of the state now, and then like, you know, Epstein?
Well, I don't, I can't say that I can point to anybody specifically who's brought out that type of information publicly. Because like I said, you wouldn't bring out your social security number publicly. You wouldn't be bringing out, you don't dox yourself with a lot of this stuff. When you get into corporate finance, and you're an entrepreneur and you own businesses, a lot of that stuff has to be public, right? Where you have to dox yourself with a lot of that type of stuff when it comes into those things. But when it comes to cryptocurrency, you don't have to do those types of things. So it does become a little bit complicated with those types of things. And since people don't have to do that type of stuff, when it comes to being a secured party creditor or your nationality or your citizenship status, doesn't have to be public. So I don't see people like going out and doing those types of things, especially the billionaires that may be potentially part of the 1% of the 1% that have done these things. Or like Richard Hart doesn't specifically tell you that he's done these things, right? For probably good reason, right? However,
Okay.
your own actions will prove whether you are an enemy of the state or not, right? If you become a secured party creditor, which makes you a state national, and you go to another state and murder somebody and get caught by the police and try to tell them that you're a sovereign citizen, they're not going to give a fuck whether you're a secured party creditor, a state national, from a different country. They don't care. You're a murderer. You're going to prison. There's nothing that can help you there. Nothing. Well, okay. Let's say that you are part of a tribe, an Indian tribe that has their own jurisdiction, which would mean that the chief of that tribe would be technically your president. He's also would be your the person that you would vote for to be the delegate, right? To delegate the means to like the House of Representatives, even though they can't vote, but their voices are still heard to represent you. Then if you were to go murder somebody, it wouldn't be under the jurisdiction of the United States. It would be under the jurisdiction of the tribe, which has their own laws and their own rules, their own judges, their own regulations, and their own everything else. And you would have to probably submit to them on whatever it was that they were going to do to you, because it could be capital punishment, which I don't technically actually exactly agree with. But it could just be getting your hand lopped. Like some countries lop off people's hands and they brand the exposed end to know that you're a thief type shit. That tends to stop people from dealing with you when you got your hand lopped off in a brand, right? Like, and people who go to war that have their legs and hands blown off and shit like this generally don't have a brand on the end of it, right? A branding to what do they call it? The scarlet letter type shit, right? And I wouldn't suggest that when you go do these types of things that you put yourself in as a vigilante, because then the government who precedes themselves as the ruler of law, which is just a corporate entity in the first place, I would not say shake the tree. I would say hold your cards tight to your chest until you need to be able to deploy those things, which would be like in the financial sense. You don't need to be generally people who are murderers and people who steal and thieve things are only doing those types of things because they don't have the availability of doing the right thing to make those things on their own. And if you become a secure party creditor and have the access to your own treasury where you can actually discharge your own debts and be able to gain more actual assets and land and houses and cars and whatever the boats, whatever the fuck it is your filthy heart can ever think of to go purchase for yourself to discharge a debt, which is just a bill of exchange. They don't care. They're not making their money off the debt anyway. They're making money off the interest that they can get from that bill of exchange, which they can only trade for 9 months anyway, until they sell it to somebody else, which somebody else will make the interest off of that at that time. They don't care. As a matter of fact, when you become a secured party creditor, you're no longer a liability to the whole entire system in the first place. So it actually helps them to do these things. Which is why at a certain point in time, there was information to explicitly show you and teach you how to do these things, but has been scrubbed from the internet as of 20 years ago or some shit, because too many people were trying to take the whole fucking cookie jar instead of understanding that you handle the cookie jar with contracts. Discharge debt. You could go become a doctor, go to college, and become a fucking doctor and discharge all of your student loans as a debt. If you wanted to, you certainly can. But you have to put yourself under this particular jurisdictional status of this different type of citizenship, which does not require for you to renounce your citizenship at all. You will be pledging allegiance to the state in which you were born in, which has its own constitutional rights in the first place.
But what if America just turns into like just keeps getting worse and worse and worse, and then it's like
It
you know
will.
you just have to leave, like you don't want that on your resume that you were American.
So there are a couple of countries that are left over that haven't fallen for the ruse that has happened 103 years ago. And those countries are the ones that are considered evil through the media. North Korea, Iran, Russia, Syria, which I think Syria is currently having a current battle. The reason why Ukraine is currently in its current battle is because the people woke up from the emplacement of the actors that were taken over 10 to 12 years ago inside there, where the United States emplaced their own president there. That's why that idiot is doing everything that they're doing. Why do you think the United States is paying so much fucking money to protect those borders? 25 times the amount of money to protect the Ukraine borders from Russia than what it would take to protect our own borders here in the United States, which is a significantly smaller border there in Ukraine.
I missed the part of that. Why do you figure that they're doing that?
Why they are doing what specifically?
Protecting the Ukraine borders. That's
Because
why I'm curious.
Because they're the ones that implemented him as the president of that country, the United States.
Zelensky, right?
Yes.
That's what I mean. Yeah. Okay. So like, but why do they care? Why do they care so much? Like, it doesn't make sense.
Because they make almost all the wheat. They make 30% of all the food that goes all across the world, and they also have the pipelines that come from Russia to go to Germany and the rest of the countries right there. It's a great place to take over and to have access to be able to take claim of all the assets in which they want to have to not have to be yours or theirs.
Yes. Okay. That makes sense. Because I was just watching something about Putin talking about how the world, I think it was an old clip from him talking, I think it was in front of the World Economic Forum or something like that, where he was saying how like there's going to be a shift to hard assets by many countries, and that how fiat's really not going to be something of any importance.
If he has his way, that would probably be best for everyone on the planet. And I'm not a sympathizer really in that respect, because I think that some of those countries have to do nefarious fucked up shit so that way they can be protected, right? If you've got 210 countries on the planet and 5 of them haven't been taken over economically, then you might have to act like you're the crazy motherfucker on the other side of the planet when you got 200 other people ready to pounce on you. You know, maybe you might have to act like you got a bomb strapped to your chest and you don't give a fuck whether you blow up everybody on the whole fucking planet at all, just to keep them out. You know that Vladimir Putin actually paid off all of the debts that could have ever been made through any international trade agreement at all, paid off those centralized banking entities, which happens to be the Rothschilds family and every single synergetic company underneath them, and then also put out warrants for the arrest of any of the Rothschilds family or any of those bankers that own any of those banks in his country. If they're in that country
I
at all,
forgot about that.
death. He saved his country from them. for these things to not happen. And he has well enough means to protect Ukraine from that as well. He let the ruse happen long enough. And then when he noticed that the people, which most of them are Russian, were not falling for it, it gave him the understanding that he might have the capability here with the people that are already inside the country to be able to free them from the United States and what they've done in taking over that country economically and putting in their own puppet to be able to make claim and ownership of all the assets that run through it and try to hold Russia accountable by saying you're going to have to pay us tax to be able to move your product through our areas, which Zelensky's does. He would be more than happy to pay the United States for the protection, but he's not even part of the UN. You know that, right? Ukraine is not a part of the UN. Why the fuck would we be protecting them? It doesn't make any sense. It makes zero sense. Unless you were to understand the things the way that I would, is it has nothing
we don't have
other than the assets they have.
they're like, if they were part of the UN, then we would legally have to protect them, right? But
Yes.
that also means boots on the ground, right?
Yes.
And but are there any other treaties like, oh, if they're attacked, we're gonna send them money? Well, I guess there isn't, because we're just sending them. We have to, like, Congress is doing it. Like,
Yeah. In a bill that they passed at 3 o'clock in the morning that had 4,000 pages on the motherfucker.
yeah, it's ridiculous. I like 100% agree. I'm just like trying to. I don't know. I haven't studied the situation that much. I forgot that he banned Bush and the Rothschilds, and I'm sure there's more politicians from ever entering Russia.
Death
I'm
contracts.
also curious.
And I looked it up too, Kevin. You know who? A couple of guys from Russia actually created Telegram.
Oh, okay. But I think it's a Dubai company. They might be Russian, but I think they incorporate in Dubai.
Yeah, it says.
It's stranger than fiction.
Yeah, Pavel Durov and Nikolai Durov, two brothers, founded Telegram back in 2013 while they're still residing in Russia. The current Pavlov Durov is the current CEO of Telegram. He's also the founder of Russian social network, whatever the fuck. I don't speak Russian. VK. Yeah. So you know when nobody wants to be a part of anybody's magic trick, right? Look at the left hand while the right hand's stealing your wallet type shit, or your watch, or your whatever. Like, I've always been intrigued with United States pointing the finger at the small, insignificant little countries that are there, like North Korea and Iran and Syria. It used to be Iraq, but you see what they did to Iraq. It used to be Afghanistan, but you see what they've recently did to Afghanistan. And I think that they have means to try to push even further. So like the initial like, what happens if it gets worse in the United States, so people start leaving and things like this, like they're going to have to take over North Korea without blowing up the world, Russia without blowing up the world, Iran without blowing up the world. I think they're going to keep this Ukraine thing going for a long time. It's all a ruse to keep moving money around. It's all about the dollar. That's it. Strengthen the dollar, squeeze it and expand it, squeeze it and expand it. Right? We're all seeing the squeeze right now. We're waiting for the expand to happen, which cryptocurrency will go through the fucking roof as soon as they start printing money again. And even financial advisors and these people that are on YouTube and talking about these things, they don't fucking get it either. They don't really see the wide spectrum of how things really work.
Yeah. Do you think the Ukraine thing is recent? Like, did we have somebody in place in Ukraine before 2013 or whatever, 2014 or?
No, I think that they had a tyrant, right? Didn't make the people happy. and the United States implemented this new guy that's been there for.
And so Zelensky, like,
You
yeah,
cut
he's an asset of like the.
Are you like moving around in your house or something? Because you keep losing connection or something.
My girlfriend called me once, and then I canceled, and then she called me again. I was saying I was saying that the Zelensky is probably like a CIA asset.
I mean, he doesn't even have to be a CIA asset. He's just some guy that seemed the best place that was going to adhere to what they wanted and become a president. Who wouldn't want that? He's going to do whatever he can to keep it to. So he wouldn't even, I mean, it would probably be better if he was an asset in some sort of way, right? An international one, since they've got CIA operatives all over the world. But yeah, probably. I'm not going to say definitively because I don't know. I don't think anybody besides the people who were involved with that particular situation actually knows. But I would say probably you're correct. Yeah.
Yeah, because like it would be the CIA that is the one that does that shit. I know they do. Well, actually, you know, I thought this was really interesting. Tim Kennedy, the like wonder boy of like he's like a UFC fighter, and he's also I don't know what part of the military he's in, but he's in the military somehow. He actually went to Afghanistan to help people evacuate. But he also talked about how in the past he had like 3 Venezuelan wives, and that oh he was a Green Beret, and he said that something along the lines of that in the Green Berets they teach you how to have wives, to get wives in other countries to leverage the politics or something and take over the country. Oh, he said you get 4 Green Berets and you can take over a country, and then he said that's why all of us have had like 4 or 5 Venezuelan wives. And I was like, whoa, that says a lot. And like, just like, I don't know, like 20 words, like you just explained a lot. Like the Green Berets took over Venezuela, you were a part of it, and you have like 3 Venezuelan families. Like, what the fuck? That's a lot to swallow, but I thought that was funny. So maybe the Green Berets or something to do with it. I don't know.
Well, I mean, a green beret would probably be a good thing to have on your resume to become a 3-letter agent in the first place. I'm pretty sure
That's true. That's true.
most 3-letter agents have some sort of military service in some sort of way. But I mean,
Yeah,
if you want to play the game, if you understand there is a game and you want to be involved in the game, then you have to know that the people that you're shaking hands with in any fucking way, whether it be a hostile takeover, an economic takeover in some sort of way, no matter what it is, that you're going to have to play the game with these 3-letter agencies. And you cannot put yourself in a position to make any of these agencies think that you're going to be a vigilante in any fucking way. Because then, like I said, they'll just make you lost at sea. For real. Like the guy with what was the cryptocurrency guy that drowned in Puerto Rico?
Oh, there's so many I don't remember. Like all of them are dying.
I think it had to do with DAI. He was the DAI founder.
Honestly, when somebody like that dies, I don't remember their name. I don't know why. Probably because I probably won't ever need it.
Well, he said some stuff about like government agencies, CIA, the Gestapo, and other people were gonna make him disappear, and like he made that tweet, and 2 days later he was dead.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
He probably had the black suits show up at his doorstep with the power that he has through Dai, and they said, you pretty much give us access, pretty much give us everything. You can stay the guy, you can be the puppet, right? The Zelensky. Be the puppet that stays in power and everyone thinks everything's hunky-dory, so people don't get freaked out that this is what we're doing. Or you can just literally be lost at sea, which is what they did. Because he didn't play the game. I'm assuming, I have to only assume that he decided to say, no, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to be a part of it, and thought that it was going to be okay, not realizing who he was actually dealing with until he understood
Yeah,
who
it's interesting that, like, yeah, there's like, I've thought about that too. Like, there are people who somehow they get the attention of the three-letter agencies and then they disappear. And then there are people who are like, they have all the attention in the world on them and they don't disappear. And so it makes you wonder, like, is everybody who's got a lot of attention on them, are they all like complicit or not? Like,
as long
I don't know, it's pretty weird.
You have to assume this, Kevin. Let's be real here. If they are in the eye of the world and still in the eye of the world, then they chose life over death. Period. Yes, they're fucking complicit. Look at what they're doing to North Korea. Look what they're doing to Russia. Look what they're doing to Iran. These places have to legitimately to the world look like they're fucking crazy nutbags to keep everybody away.
What about yeah, I've seen some really good pictures of China. Like, I changed the subject like really quick, but China looks like a pretty good place. We just look at their national parks, they take really good care of them. And they've got like really good like viewing points and everything that are really, I don't know, well taken care of. But the other thing is, what about Snowden? Like, Snowden, did he actually get away? Or is he seems like he should be dead. Like, how is he still alive?
Yeah, because he did get away, and he understood, since he built the majority of their availability to track people and listen to stuff. He knows that there's entire buildings that are devoted to be able to monitor even what we're currently communicating on now with red, black, pink, blue, green flags of all different sorts of categorizations that every single one of us gets disseminated in as whether we're a threat or not. And I can almost guarantee that all of us in some sort of way are considered a threat level in some sort of way. And with him, since he's the one that developed all of that shit, I don't know if you've ever seen the files, but he pretty well goes into the way things are now is because of his fault. He didn't know what he was getting himself into. They didn't explicitly tell him exactly what they were going to use it for. They just told him to build this shit, and then they took advantage of it. And that's the reason why he could put himself in the position that he was. And he went to those other countries that gave him the availability to be able to be protected from all of the economic entities that are currently coming crashing down on every other country in the world that didn't say yes to their complicit behavior, right? That's why North Korea very quickly decided to get together with China and Russia and develop a nuclear program to be just as crazy to keep everybody else away. Well, he was able to put himself into the shadows, right? And then at some certain point in time, since you can notice that he has some sort of relaxed availability to be able to speak on social media and things like this, like he even has his own Twitter, right? Would be because I would assume that they'd be like, look, okay, we get it. It's already out. We've already seen what has happened because the information's already been out. If you bring yourself in any way to these particular jurisdictions, you're done.
Well, what if the whole thing was a psyop and it was to make you believe that everything that you say is being recorded and watched, and there's like a supercomputer processing it, when in reality this guy is actually like a CIA operative? Because I really think they would have banned his Twitter, like, at least, like,
oh, sure, absolutely.
Like, he's still like,
Yeah, I think he's complicit is what I was saying.
Yeah,
Is that
okay.
there was a point in time where he got away, and then they allowed for him to still have his life and remain complicit only to his availability in the contracts in which they'd sign to say that him as a flesh and blood human being has the availability to these things, but he can't travel to certain places without being in danger, and I'm sure he's well aware of those types of things because he'd be getting tracked. And I know that those things exist only because of my availability of connections that I have with the Air Force and family members that I have that are very high ranking officials to know that these buildings do exist with these supercomputers that track everything.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got a grandfather who's retired now, that was for 65 years of his life in control of what you would call Offutt Air Force Base, where they have Strategic Air Command. That's where they take the president when anything is happening. 24 stories into the ground in the middle of the country.
Yeah, my dad was a Green Beret actually, and he worked for, or he was offered a job at the CIA, but he didn't take it. But then also he worked for, coincidentally, some very high ranking, or sorry, I think his name was James Rockefeller, like the son of, or the grandson of the guy. And then he actually had, his secretary was a CIA, worked for the CIA.
Yeah.
And
For
she was like, I remember they had some problem or something, and then he told Rockefeller about it, and then Rockefeller told the secretary, and then the secretary like handled it by talking to the CIA or something.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, the problem that I would see with a lot of different agencies and members within the agencies themselves, like the CIA isn't just one guy. The CIA is thousands of people that may have their own operations that are currently going. And let's say you're in the middle of your operation and then the FBI shows up and you're just kind of like, hey, motherfucker, like you're ruining this whole investigation that we're currently getting into. You need to get the fuck out of here, like now. I don't care if the guy just murdered somebody. What we're doing here is way more important than whoever it is that you're trying to, find out who committed, whoever it was that was murdered at that time. We don't care. That murder happened and it's now forgotten because we're doing more important shit here. Like those types of things, I'm sure it happens all the time, because there's so many agencies and so many people that are involved that consider that they have a higher level of jurisdictional capabilities than the next one, which is the echelon of hierarchy is there, right? Like, so if you were to have high-ranking family members in the military and they told you that they worked for IT, for the information technology sector, right? But they worked for an agency in which, in the military, an agency within the military, but wouldn't ever tell you what it was, I would suggest that they're trying to do as best as possible to let you know what they do by saying information technology. But that's what spies do. That's how they correlate their information.
Yeah,
And
I've always been very suspicious of IT workers because they have access to all of everybody's passwords, everybody's emails, It's the perfect job for somebody
what
undercover.
is Snowden? Tell
Yeah,
me.
he was in IT.
That's right. So not only may he be potentially already we already knew that he was involved with the CIA. I think that he was probably an operative to be a spy also, right? Your
Yeah,
007 agent type shit.
maybe he's working. Maybe he's in hiding in Russia, but he's actually a spy for them or against them or something. I don't know.
Well, yeah. I think that Russia and those other countries have definitely sussed that shit out for sure.
Yeah, and I also, I'm not so sure that, like, I mean, Putin's going to these, he's going to these what do you
conferences.
call it? Yeah, there's those conferences with the Santa Claus guy.
Hmm.
So I don't know if he's like on.
He's like the prince or the king of Saudi Arabia and shit like this. The United Arab Emirates. Santa Claus. So
Yeah, I don't know. His name is Klaus Schwab. Klaus Schwab.
oh, okay.
Yeah,
I just know that he sits next to the guys that have to do with all the oil and stuff like that, because that's how he stays alive. That's how Vladimir Putin particularly moves around in the world and goes to these things and does this stuff, because he's the number two supplier of all the oil in the whole fucking world, next to Saudi Arabia.
yeah, and I as a petroleum engineer, I don't think that that's because Russia has a lot of oil. It does, and it's got a huge amount of land mass per capita, because it's like not very populated, it's very sparsely populated. But it's just that they looked for it. Like if we looked for oil in all these other countries, we'd find it. But they don't want to look for it.
Well, they already know where a lot of it is. They just don't need it right now. I mean, you can just tap into other people's reserves, wait for a natural disaster to happen. I mean, they've already got military facilities that can manipulate the ionosphere in the first place to suck clouds up into a certain area, which could cause for the jet stream to move, which means you could dump a bunch of fucking rain onto a particular area, or even cause for a hurricane to shift direction over to a certain part of the islands or other parts of the countries, or cause for tornadoes. So they call it a natural disaster, and then come in with the Red Cross under a guise to be able to come with help. And then where they happen to put those buildings with those fences around to help people that were injured at the time, the place that they plopped those places down were where the geologists already discovered the oil and the gold and the silver and everything else that was under the ground right there, that those people didn't even know that they had under their control at that time.
Yeah, but I like there's that, and then there's also like, well, you're in California, and we don't want to drill in California. Period. We don't care how much oil there is there.
The United States has so much fucking oil that you have no idea about. That it's,
well, yeah, like I know personally that our field, well, for one, like our field is not, it's like not particularly big, but we had 50 million barrels and they shut us in. Like in reserves, like we could have ramped production up and had like $1 billion business, but they didn't want us to. And then on top of that, on the other side of the island in Santa Barbara, they found like 30-40 years ago, they found 5 billion barrels of oil in reserves, and nothing's happened in the last 40 years. It's like it's just sitting there.
I'll listen in, but I got a phone call I gotta take real quick. I'll be right back, guys.
All right.
I've just been in the background making good food for Christmas and listening in, and yeah, I just wanted to say truth is stranger than fiction, you know, like all these things that we're learning about. I think a lot of it's gate kept by people's cognitive dissonance. I think it's how much of the world is a lie is can be alarming for a lot of people. So a lot of people just can't handle the truth.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, to me, it's like to me, like the more remote I am, like the further away I am from America, the safer I feel. The further away from cities, I feel safer. Like all the geopolitics just matter way less. Like, and it's too hard to predict what's going on. Like I don't
Yeah, I
want to
suppose.
waste.
I mean, I feel pretty safe in the U.S., but like I hear what you're saying, and I think that um, as bad as the U.S. is, we have the best financial laws. It's just figuring out what those laws are and understanding how to, you know, work them to your advantage, especially with trusts. You know,
But you could also, you can do all of that shit. You can have all the access to the U.S. financial system while you're in another country. Like you don't need to
true. And
physically be here.
but yeah, okay, yeah, and I suppose that's what Executioner was alluding to, how Richard Hart has positioned himself. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really interested in that. Did he say like how much that would cost?
Well, currently, I know it's like between 10 and 15 grand, but I think he's going to keep the cost down from there. Although he said the timing that he'll be able to do this in will be less. So, yeah, I think the goal is to keep the cost down for sure.
Yeah, I mean that's better than Nomad Capitalist. His retainer's like 25,000. But yeah, I don't know.
It's all connected with the private banking too. It's just it's all the truth is lining up, you know, and Hex is at the base of it all, but all these other parts kind of make the whole thing complete.
I think it's just fun to talk about. I don't know. I feel like it's probably better not to talk about this stuff though, because like they're saying they're probably listening. So what's new with the cows? Anything new?
Sorry, I'm working right now. Everything's good. The big news is with my kratom farm, we got a big genetics deal. Looks like I'm going to be able to DCA in a lot more before the bull market really starts going. Loads and loads of work. Just been working nonstop, like literally 12-hour days. I just finished in the kitchen. I'm gonna take my kids to the to some friends for a Christmas dinner, and yeah, but it's all good. You know, it's like I'm glad that I'm pushing myself so hard and I'm out of my comfort zone. because every time I've ever done that in my life, a lot of good things have come from it. You know, it's like it's related to delayed gratification, you know. So yeah, I just see opportunity, and you kind of have to just, when the opportunity's there, you just gotta give it your all. So it's kind of the phase I'm at in my life right now, and yeah, it all ties into being a part of this group and understanding the truth of money. What country are you in again, Kevin? I forgot. It was South America somewhere. Yeah.
Colombia.
I had a friend who, a landowner actually, and at one point, their friend, he spent a lot of his time in Colombia, and he was somewhat wealthy. He just enjoyed how inexpensive it was. He was wealthy in land in the U.S., but he was the first one that kind of opened my mind to the idea that, you know, the narrative isn't as it seems as far as like other countries and how safe they are.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like actually, what is the main thing is that the whole world is becoming industrialized, like, and this was over the last 30 years. So yeah, like people, you know, you have like a parent or something that went to some foreign country 30 years ago, and they're like, wow, it's dangerous and it's a shithole here, and then they never come back. 30 years later, like, it's a whole different thing. Like it's everything's changed a lot in the last 30
Yeah, I
years.
was kind of
And
thinking about Mexico in that regard, because uh you know, there's some people that, as long as you're not flashy with your money, they kind of leave you alone, from what I've heard.
yeah, like you're pretty safe in the resort, like, and you don't have to leave the resort because the resort has there's like 3 restaurants, you know, like each resort has like multiple restaurants. They each have, you know, a pool and a jacuzzi, a gym, and like a beach or something. And you literally never have to really leave the resort. And then they have like an armed guard at the gate, right? Like it's like they would need like a whole team of people to like raid that place, you know, and they don't let anybody in. They check people's names off, like, is this person a reservation? Do they have a reservation here? Are they a guest? You know,
It
like
seems
all
kind
that.
of like a prison, though. I mean, I get what you're saying. Maybe in some instances that would be good, but like I would want freedom to move and to like travel the countryside, you know? So
Yeah, I think, well, it depends on what country you're in and what countryside you're talking about. Because if you're going through the countryside and you're in like a cartel territory, like obviously that's pretty dangerous. Because that's true in Mexico near the border of the states. You don't want to be out in the country in the board near the border because that's where all the shady shit happens, right? Um, and
I was
same
kind of
with
thinking, the tip of Baja, because it's a bit removed and there's a lot
yeah,
of
that's Los
Americans that live down there.
yeah, that's Los
And
Cabos, right?
yeah, and some of the outlying suburbs, which are really country and beautiful settings where you have, you know, a lot of open space and maybe even small fishing villages. There's a couple there. So I kind of looking at that, you know. I like the simple life, but
Yeah, and I mean
I want to be full
it's
time. That would be part time, you know.
yeah, it's come down a lot in the crime in general in Latin America has come down a lot, and all around the world. Like, while it seems to be going up in places like San Francisco, Chicago, um, New York, like those places are getting worse, while the
Yep.
emerging countries seem to be getting better, just because they're getting more wealthy. They're having more,
It's all relative. Yeah, it's
yeah,
relative to the wealth that they had before, and so yeah, if people's living conditions are improving, yeah, there's going to be less of that
the
strife, or yeah.
the absolute nicest hotel resort that I've ever been to was in Los Cabos, and it's called um, Garza Blanca, and
Okay.
and it's not a 5-star hotel, it's a 5-diamond hotel,
Huh.
which I forget what that means exactly, but it's just like spotless, everything's spotless. They have like 20 pools. They have a rooftop pool. It's a heated pool, so it's like kind of like a jacuzzi almost. They have
That
a
sounds nice.
rooftop. Yeah, they have a
I was kind
rooftop.
of picturing one of the, like, you can get some spreads out there for like $1 million US or a couple $1 million US, like Jimmy Page's old spread. Like beautiful. I mean, they're amazing masons, right? Like they do such good cement work, and I've seen some beautiful places.
What's a spread?
Yep.
What did you say?
I was just saying houses that are for sale there. Like if you were going to purchase one that you
Okay.
like VRBO out when you're not there, kind of thing. That's kind of what I had in mind. So
Yeah,
it'd be just a place to travel
that's one way to
and
do it.
live.
But if I were to do VRBO or Airbnb, I would want a vacation rental management company to manage it for me so that I don't have to worry about
Yeah.
reviews and all that shit. I don't know of any I know there are probably some in Mexico, and you probably
Yeah,
actually
I think
just
the way to think
message.
of it is like not making money from that home, but just making it where you're not losing any.
Yeah,
And then you're paying for your time that you spend there, maybe 3 months of the year or something. I haven't figured out
you
the math on it, but that's kind
you
of
could
what I had in
probably
mind.
just message Airbnb hosts, like just go to Los Cabos on Airbnb and message them and say, "Are you a management company?" And then if they say yes, then you'd be like, "Okay, I'm gonna buy a house here. Would you be willing to manage it if I buy it?" And then be like, "Yes, no, maybe," and then just keep ask like 10 of them or something. But for
Yeah,
me,
that sounds,
go ahead.
I was just saying, yeah, that sounds like the right approach.
For me, I would rather have a condo inside of a resort or a hotel because they're going to take really good care of it because there's going to be, it's like part of their real estate basically, and part of their 5-diamond status is that this condo stays exactly how it was when I bought it. And they will rent it out for you, so you don't need to even hire a host. You just need to tell them to rent it out. Like you just tell them, I'm not going to be here, please rent it out, and then
I'm just,
they'll put it on
I'm
Expedia. You can't.
exercising the idea that all these things, I'll have these options in the future. Because I believe so much in what I'm invested in here with RH products. Like it's part of kind of making it a reality too. Like it all starts with a dream. So I'm just trying to fill my dream out specifically and provide details.
Yeah, that's a good idea, like a vision board.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, like and actually the best way to do something like that would like if you want to, if this is an purely investment for me, if I were to buy a place at Garza Blanca, it would be purely because I know what the resort is fucking amazing, and I wouldn't be rolling the dice at all. I don't know if it's very profitable, but I know that it has like a really nice gym, really nice restaurants, and like everything I could possibly want. Um, I was thinking there, like, I was there for 5 days, and I was thinking the whole time, like, dude, I could fucking live here for like 5 years. I don't care, like 10 years. And I'm not the kind of person that's like, I want to live here ever. Like, I'm like, this is gonna be nice for about a month, and then I'm gonna want to change cities or something. Um, but yeah, I didn't have that with Casablanca. But the best way to do it as an investment is to buy it while it's being constructed, because then the moment it's constructed, you get like
Bingo,
a
bingo.
30% premium on what you paid. And
Valuation of the project goes up 30% then.
yeah, and then So your 5% APY or whatever that you were expecting to get on a place that you would probably stay at for like 2 or 3 months out of the year, is suddenly like 15% because it just like tripled or something. Like,
I mean, I don't
know.
look at it as an investment so much as it is just, I don't know, maybe I'll just end up renting, you know, and just traveling to different areas. But yeah, who knows? Options are open. It's interesting to see the stage and how it's set though, and try to understand, you know, where it makes sense to play the game. I know you figured that out, so it's neat.
I mean, I've thought about it a lot. I haven't figured it out, but I've definitely thought about it a lot more than most people.
You live in
I think
Colombia, so you figured out enough of it to do that, right?
to live in Colombia.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, except I'm constantly thinking about I want to check out Dubai, I want to check out Singapore, and what else? Like India. India is nice if you really don't want to learn another language, because they all speak English pretty much. But yeah, like I don't know. I want to go over the world, and ideally, like it would be really cool if I could buy my own jet and then do it from my own jet. Like not like a private jet, but like
How about on the water instead of in the air? Because I kind of feel the same way as far as just that freedom.
oh
And
yeah, that's
now
awesome.
there's some really good technologies that are coming out with boats, you know, to where
Yeah, I mean like that's probably the way cheaper way to do it actually.
yeah, you can stay autonomous now because of they have like props that on sailboats you have like these hybrid sailboats to where you have enough power to motor sail if you need to. And then even the solar boats where they have enough solar panels now to where you do the opposite of what most like sailors do, which is follow the wind, which tends to be on in between two pressure systems. But with a solar sailboat, you would try to center yourself in a high pressure system, which would have the most sun, you know, and also has the nicest seas, right? Big high pressure systems tend to have very mellow seas.
And you don't need like you could theoretically run out of gas, run out of energy, and still sail somewhere. Like
Yeah,
it's
that's the
pretty.
thing. These things they have the regenerative props, so when you sail, you can charge
Uh,
your lithium phosphate, iron
wow.
phosphate batteries, and yeah, just the battery technology's gotten so good. And then the whole like you know, you also have a generator with diesel that you barely have to use, but that tends to be the thing that keeps people having to go into port and not just anchor, but actually like go and touch the land, is that they need to get diesel. And if you can eliminate that, then it's like it's kind of a game changer, and I see that happening right now in the whole like cruising world. So I don't know. I'm a dreamer, so I just kind of think about, okay, when I'm done working super hard and I made a ton of money, how am I going to free myself? Because I just don't want to get trapped into the idea of always needing to make money and having that money control me in the future. Like it's all means to an end for myself, and I just ultimately want to make sure that you know um, that I get the most freedom as possible, and I feel like that's the most valuable thing. So
Yeah, I agree. I took a week long sailing camp when I was like in 8th grade, and that was pretty fun. It was like a 10-foot boat or something. I can't remember. It was not. It was a very small boat, but I learned the basics. I think it was like 1 or 2 people. But yeah, that would be really fun for sure. Definitely the cheaper approach than a jet or even an airplane. Like, but they have like there's a the jet I was thinking about is the Cirrus Vision jet. It's not actually a jet. It's like a mini jet. It holds like 7 people, and
yeah,
it's single pilot, and like whereas like a full-on private jet would go like probably 400 or 500 miles an hour. This jet goes like 300, and
Okay.
but it's just like a really fucking cool jet. I think they're probably way cheaper than a private jet, not only in gas but just like
Efficiency.
yeah, and they're also safer because they have a parachute. The airplane
Oh,
has a
cool.
parachute, and also
Yeah.
if you somehow get into um IMC, which is like you can't see anything, you can press a fucking button and the computer will find the nearest airport and land for you in
Wow, that's amazing.
like
What does IMC stand for?
instrument meteorological conditions.
Oh, okay. To where you can only use instruments. You can't see
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then there's VMC, which is visual meteorological. Yeah, which is like you can see like more than 2 miles or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
But
that sounds good. I mean, it's freedom, right? Like flying in a plane is freedom, right? Especially because if the restrictions pick up again with COVID, whatever stupid thing that Klaus Schwab has up
yeah,
his sleeve for the next round, then you basically live outside of the public realm, and that kind of all ties into becoming a state national too, where it's like we're trying to exit the system, but not be a martyr and benefit from getting out of the way of basically doing what the crowd does, because they're the ones that are being cold, and they're the ones that are being controlled and manipulated, and normies, right?
yeah. I think like that is like if I'm like a billionaire or something. Like I don't I would I'm probably not gonna be able to afford a Vision Jet unless Hex goes to like $10 or something. But
Oh no, Hex is going to 40.
yeah, it is, but it's gonna take like 4 or 5 years, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
no,
don't
three and
know.
a half, 3.5 to 4. I think at the top
Okay.
of this next bull market, we're pushing 40. And here's the thing,
Yeah,
though. I think a lot of
you're
people,
probably right.
like earlier when Mike was in here, and it was just Mike, DJ, and I. DJ was really saying that like when Hex goes up to 30 or 40 cents, he's going to EES a lot of his stakes, and I think we're going to see a lot of that. And I think what that does is just going to add opportunity for people, and it's going to be kind of like that same story of people that sold Bitcoin way too early, and they regret it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think that's
so
gonna happen.
yeah, because it's just going to ratchet the T-share uh, um, mm, appreciation rate up, uh, to a more vertical degree, and yeah, so in our own self, it's like how strong will you be, because everyone kind of has a price where they're like, fuck, I'm gonna EES all of it, I'm cashing out, I'm out, I'm done, I'm like, I got $10 million. But in effect, that same person, like if it's way too early and Hex goes to $40 and you sold at $1, you're gonna be kicking yourself. So yeah, I
Yeah,
just
I've made a vow to never early end stake anything unless it's somehow like I did emergency end stake the day before big payday because I could get more t-shirts that way, and I could get a bigger big payday bonus, and I could get a longer tail end on my trip on my Quattro Cinco. So like unless there's a scenario like that, I'm not emergency end staking, period. I just made that vow to me when I made all those stakes, when I made that ladder, because yeah, like almost all my stakes are big payday, and I won't get any big payday bonus if I do. If I end stake one day early, you don't get a big payday bonus. Um, and yeah, I think that oh yeah, my I did an analysis, or I saw an analysis on Bitcoin, its second bull market, and we know that Hex kind of follows Bitcoin's launch and its gains and price appreciation. Like, and so in Bitcoin's second bull market, it went down to $3, and then it went up to like 13 or like $1,200, which is like a 50x. And sorry, that was a 50x from its last all-time high, which was 30 to 1200. That's a 50 or 1500.
50 from the top of Bitcoin Hex, 50x would be what, $25?
Yeah, something like that. And
We're
however,
going to $40.
yeah, however, if you think of like Hex as like this it's more volatile than Bitcoin for sure. Bitcoin's volatile, but Hex is more volatile.
This has the ability to do better than a reduction of 5x in its
Yeah, I
second
really
bull run.
I think we're gonna have a lower trough, which means, whereas
1 cent.
Bitcoin went from $30 to $3 or something, we're going to $1, and then we're gonna have a bigger second top, and so our second top isn't gonna be 50x higher than 50 cents. I think it's gonna be even higher. However,
I listen to Access Alive a lot, and I think he's a genius with his charting.
was that the
and then
guy
I
who
listen
did
to Executioner for just fundamentals, right? And Icosa, and it's just like I'm listening to all the smartest guys in all the smartest parts of the RH ecosystem, and then I put it all together. I'm like, okay, yeah, $40 Hex, easy, no problem. People think I'm crazy, but 3 years from now they won't.
Yeah, I'm not gonna get greedy though. Like, I will 100% not feel bad if I sell the Hex that isn't that I have available. I won't feel bad if I sell it at 20, like, and then it goes to 40. I will be 100% happy with that because I'd rather I'd rather miss 40 than just, like, never, ride it all the way back down. Like, yeah. And I think that's at the point, like, $20, like, that's at the point where, like, it doesn't really matter to me if I make another double, because it will be so much money anyways that I probably won't be able to spend it. Like,
He said probably.
well, I mean, like, so, like, if it goes to $20, I might be I'd probably be a billionaire. And if I sell, like, I don't know, 30 million or something dollars, and then I buy any investment vehicle for $30 million, I'm good. I'm a minimalist. Like, I don't fucking need that money. Like, I'm good. If I could buy something that makes 5 or 10% interest for $30 million, I'm good. Like, that's enough for me. Like, I don't need the tallest grass gets cut, right? Like, I don't want to be the tallest grass. I don't want to be the richest man in the world. I don't want that kind of attention or anything. At
Yeah, I'm
least in
pretty
this
humble.
moment. Maybe I'll change my mind when I'm 60 and I got nothing to lose, and I'll be like, okay, I'm an influencer now.
I'm loving the moon, Matt.